Oh, actually, yeah, we'll be right back, fam. Right back. Let me share this a couple times. All right. Is it still good? Yep, look like we still in action. Cool. Hey, shalom, fam. Shalom, shalom, aparat. I'm gonna let the music play a little bit more. Then we're gonna jump right into it. I'm gonna type in where we're gonna start from. A lot in this. Praise God for it. But yeah, a lot. So we're just gonna dive in wherever He leads us to dive in. By time it's time to dive in. That's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna let this play out one more time, and then we're gonna jump right on in. All praises. I'm on. Shalom, fam. Shalom, shalom, up the rock. We're gonna get started in just a couple minutes. We're gonna start out in Nahum chapter 1 and get the vibe of where we're coming from, and we're gonna study. We're gonna study. That's what this is. We're gonna study. I'm on. Shalom, fam. Shalom. Praying all is well. It's been a little minute, hasn't it? It's been a little minute. I dropped out the preview for what we're gonna study for today. One second. Um, and while we're when I did that, it was to basically to get people to marinate on um the neurotypical and the neurological and neurodivergency of things. What we're going to dive in today on is David. We're going to dive in deep on David, like extremely deep on David, because David was one that was, or is one that is, for those that are aware of the past, present, and future tense of things. So to more explain that, as I am here, there is a future self and there is a past self. These things all intermingle with each other. Literally, when I think about something of the past, I am in the past. When I think about something towards the future, I am in the future. Right now, presently talking to you. To get all these things in line and how things affects us. A lot of times, what we're going to jump into is how things are broken down and how it distracts us. But before we get any deeper in that, praise God, we're going to pray to bring it in. Definitely get better on that. Aman, Abba, We thank you for your Yah, for your righteous direction, for your Yahweh, for the righteous direction you work with. But Father, we thank you for bringing us together for a deeper understanding, because we now know that you have given us word. And with that word, you have given us the work of that word is to dive deeper into that. And as we dive deep, may the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart with you be acceptable, and um, being able to be received for those that are able to receive it. But even if they're not able to receive it in the words that I give, but they're able to read the scriptures or hear the scriptures and let it marinate and let it be something that they can hear for what they need in their life. Because what you have given us is comfort. What you have given us is a mindset. For in the beginning, you created a righteous mindset here first, because you knew what was needed. You knew the option of things, not to be caught up in what's going on around us, but to dive deeper in more on how it makes us feel from the heart. As in the beginning, you breathed the breath of life into us. And with that, things work from the inside out. So as we work from the inside out, we thank you for creating us perfectly in your image from the inside out. Although the work, it's still perfection, because perfection is your work. Asham Yahava, Asham Yahashpat, Asham Rabak HaKodash, Aman, Aman, and Aman. So, fam, now we're going to dive in. So, uh, like I was saying before, I kind of left it out there for people to marinate on, things like that. Apply it to your life before I got a chance to kind of dive in, not kind of dive in, but to dive in on what Abba had for me. Essentially, what we do a lot is, quote unquote, talk about ourselves. So that's our testimony. There's a test for the testimony, and how it applies applicably to your life is what we speak out. You know what I'm saying? So with this, what I came from, what I have, is what I bring to you. Aman. And Salam Barak. Salam Barak. So we're going to start with Nahum chapter 1. All right. And we're going to dive into David. We're going to dive into Moses as well a little bit. But today was going to start, as y'all flip there, today's going to start with Yahasav or Joseph. So here we've been going through the 12 patriarchs, which would be the 12 let's see, focal points of Jacob, of the works of Abba through the hands of man, right? We'll dive deeper into that, even how it conveys to other people's names, like Abraham too, but we'll get there in a second. But we've been on the 12 patriarchs, and bringing all that together is how we got to Joseph, because after this we'll go to Benjamin, right? So with Joseph Yahasav, right, being properly planted at all times. We've been through that already in the series. We did touch Joseph, and I'm pretty sure that's kind of what led us into this whole patriarchal study. So not to go back into what we already went into before, if you want to go back on this page, we did one on Joseph already being properly planted, but I was marinating on that. And as I talk with the righteous counsel amongst me, it helped me realize, like Brother Dorsey, he great brother I listen to sometimes. Quite frankly, whenever I could catch him, he's a great teacher, great speaker. I like to hear things from his perspective a lot, because we come from the same perspective on a lot of things, even in the difference of age. Nothing crazy, right? I also learned from my teacher Kofi, Pastor Kofi. Like, he's taught me in the ways so I'm able to see things in certain ways, but then my life also individually, being that I looked for things in a very harsh environment, coming from a great environment. But what that taught me in the long run is how to bridge the gap from one side to the other to see what the issue is. And that's using the bag, as I call it, using the bag of Jacob, which is his 12 sons and the 12 patriarchal things, or the mindset. As we read in Words of Gad the Seer, later on in today's study, we'll see that he talks about 3 branches and 12 palms. That applies to the heart, applies to the lob, applies to the passion of the emotions of things. So things that you see that hit your heart, right? But that leads us to the point, to the ravak of the neurotypical and the neurodivergent. Now, oftentimes in the world we are in now, in the system of things, as we are around the system but not of the system thinking, right? Which would kind of lead us to a in the system but not of it, but eventually being a thinking mindset of not of either one, because to try to be of the Father is to think of the Father who creates these systems. So in order to see these two systems, you kind of got to back yourself off of it a little bit, right? And shalom, fam, shalom, peace and blessings to you. You got to kind of back yourself off of it, right? So oftentimes the diagnosis of in the medical field, right? We're not gonna go too deep into it because a lot of strikes happen. But in order to get this message across, I'll say it like this: in those areas, things are broken into the neurodivergent and the neurotypical, based off a societal viewpoint, right? So um, when we have the place of neurodivergency, when we have a place of these people like me, I consider myself to be neurodivergent. I consider, I see now that David, neurodivergent, Moses, neurodivergent, Abraham, neurodivergent. These are the people that don't do the neurotypical things. A neurodivergent person takes things that are around them, sees things that are around them, and they are made from within based off what they see on the outside, right? Neurotypical, they see what they see and it is what it is. They become ego. They become what they see to the point where even their imaginations are written for them, right? So we can kind of see the difference in all these people being neurodivergent, as in David, as in Abraham, as in Moses, right? We can see the difference in neurodivergency and neurotypical things. Neuro being a nervous system, that's what that means. Neuro, which means that like a nerve tissue, nerve, how your nerves are made up. When something strikes you, how are you reacting to that? Oftentimes we become neurotypical, but we must have both. We must be neurodivergent in order to work the neurotypical, but we also must be neurotypical to know when to work the neurodivergent. Oftentimes in the medical field, things are broken apart to say, all right, you got to be this or you got to be this when you're expressing things. I went on live earlier today, kind of touching on this. When you're expressing things, that's just the extrovert system of things. When you're supposed to work it from the inside out, because from the inside out we were made. So, like I said in prayer, talking to Abba, he blew the breath of lives into Adam, and Adam became life, right? When he blew things from the inside, so we could see things work from the inside out. So when things touch our heart, the three things that we'll see in Gad the Seer, it talks about again the three vines and the 12 branches, right? So those three things would be the things that'll help you with the birds of the sky. There we go. The beasts of the field and the fish of the sea, which are your thoughts in your mind. The beasts of the field being how these things affect your heart, your lob, and your emotions, and then the fish of the sea. Those are what we walk through, right? And we have three things, or three, not things, three motions that help us with those things. The first, for the thoughts of your mind, you got the Father, which is Yahweh, the righteous direction. For the things of the heart, you have the Son, which is Yahashua HaMashiach, or those that use Jesus. That would be the one. That would be what would help you with the things of the heart. And the fish of the sea, Ravak Hakodash, she helps you with that. That's the wisdom for these great things that try to swallow us up in the waters. The waters representing people or system or government of things. So the Ravak, she is a part of Abba, right? But the work is to, what do the winds do? They control the waters. They move the waters. What do the winds do? They become rain, hail, all these things. They help things move. In the beginning, Adam walked with Ravak in the cool of the day. That is the wind to help you among these waves and things like that. That's where that comes from. So bringing all that together, right? Bringing all that together, we have neurodivergent and neurotypical. And I'm gonna read you some notes now that I was studying with and grab some things from. So again, neurotypicals build their personalities from outside in, but we, neurodivergent, build from the inside out. Life was started from the inward man. So now where we're going to go to next is on that inward man point, 2 Corinthians chapter 4, and we're going to start at verse 16. No, actually, sorry. No, we're going to go to Nahum. I talked all that talk. We're going to go to Nahum. So Nahum, but we're going to go to, this is going to talk about the inward man too. So this all comes together. So we're going to start at Nahum, and then we're going to go to 2 Corinthians chapter 4. All right. So Nahum chapter 1, I'm going to read that through For those that want to flip to it, I'm gonna give a little background on Nahum. Now, Nahum, or Navam, if you want to go that far, it breaks down into Hebrew characters as well. But the name breaks down into compassion or comfort, consolation, consulting, full of comfort or consoler, right? Um, a compassionate character. So these things make you think about the heart of things, right? These things make you think about the heart, what works from the inside out, and how we're in life letting things affect us. Oftentimes we get it caught up in our minds of what we see is what it is, and it's not really. It's not really. But we're going to read chapter 1, and we're going to bring it all together. So by the end of this, we will see exactly where we're coming from with this prayerfully, right? All praise. So Nahum chapter 1, I'm going to read to verse 9. You can keep on reading this whole thing throughout, really. But we're going to read Nahum chapter 1, and it says, the burden of Nineveh, the book of the vision of Nahum, the Elkoshite, right? Already right there, the book of the vision. So the mindset, how we should see things, right? Let's go to verse 2. Alachayim is jealous, and Yahweh revengeth, right? So we got to start right there already. So we see Alachayim, right? I love Lamed, I love Chai, I love Yavad, I love Chai, I love Mom, right? So this is the righteous direction of the Father into the blood, water, and spirit, right? When we see the Lord in all capitals, what we know here, that is Yahweh, Yah-He, Vav-He. This is 10-5-6-5. This is the righteous direction. We went over already. Abba is Abba. Abba is Father. In that Allah Ba'ait, Allah is a point of repetition of coming from one mindset of how we're spoken to be in existence here to going into the righteous mindset in order to be in the righteous existence that we're supposed to be, right? So the righteous direction is a very jealous righteous direction that's supposed to be in the blood, water, and spirit. This is what was spoken in the beginning. Barashat bara alachem at shamayam at arat. In the beginning created alachayim, the righteous direction in the blood, water, and spirit all together. We're going to sum that up. Of heaven, or of the high mindset, into earth. So in the beginning, the first thing he spoke through Barashayat, which would be already talking about our Messiah being led to destruction towards the Tav with the righteous direction of the Father. All this is already there stated, right? So this Alachayim, jealous, and the righteous direction revenges. So if you're not doing the right thing, the righteous direction comes to revenge you. Already right there, we can see exactly what this whole chapter is going to be about just by looking at Alachayim and Yahweh, right? Just by looking at that, okay? So not saying that Yahweh is not his name. Not saying that Alachayim is not his name. Not saying Yahashpai Hamashacheh is not his name. Not saying Ravak HaKodash is not his name. But all these come from Abba. Again, the Messiah said, they asked the Messiah, how are we supposed to pray? What form should we pray? Very neurotypical. Neurotypicals need a posture to pray. Neurodivergent go with the feeling of how they feel and just speak. They don't need to necessarily close their eyes. They don't need to necessarily put their hands together. They don't necessarily need to prostrate. All these are great things on how you reverence and your connection. That's different, right? But all is direction towards the Father. Father plants seed. The seed that he planted is Yahweh. The seed that he's planted is Alakayim. The seed that he's planted is Yahashphai. The seed that he's planted is Hamashacheh. The seed he's planted is Ravak. The seed he's planted is Hakwadash. You see how all that breaks down together? So all that coming together towards the beginning. And Shalom, sis. Shalom Abarak, sis. All that coming together. So already we can see here in Nahum chapter 1, verse 2, it says, the righteous direction for the blood, water, and spirit is jealous. As soon as you get outside of that, ouch, right? And Yahweh revenges. The righteous direction is what revenges this, because for every reaction, there is an opposite and or equal reaction, right? See, science breaks down theory. Bible gives you fact, right? But science helps you get into the fact of feeling. You know what I'm saying? So be careful with, a lot of people say they go against science completely. I get what they're saying. I was like that at one point, but you got to realize, like, our concept of things, even the terminology of things, has happened for a reason. Are they correct? Are they broken down? Yes, but things have to be broken down in order for us to understand. Okay, so we're able to take these things that are lower and bring them into something, as in the work of a potter, maybe trying to be like our Father, you know. So we're gonna keep on reading. Um, the righteous direction revengeth and is furious. Right, we're at verse 2. Yahweh will take vengeance on his adversaries, and he reserveth for his enemies. Right. So what does that say? The righteous direction doesn't necessarily look for the neurotypical of hands-on revenge. All right. Duh, right? We know that we should be pretty peaceful, but this goes even deeper. So when you get to things in life, like especially for me, this is again my testimony. Going through things in life and you realize that the things aren't as deep as what I made them to be. And what do I mean by that? Like sometimes I looked at things and seen, okay, this is their answer. But me being in the righteous position, I must see that they failed me in the place that I was expecting success in because I've been to that point. Let me go a little deeper. So I will get to a point where, all right, I'm driving down the road in a truck. Somebody cuts me off. Irritates me. Why? Because I've been in that position. I've seen that you should have not done that. Why did you do that? Because they haven't gotten to that point yet. They haven't gotten to that realization yet. But you got to keep all that together, being neurodivergent, right? Not going with the typical, because the typical would get road rage. But being neurodivergent, you're able to see, okay, does that mean that I got to go over there and coach them one by one? No. But I'll be the example for when they get to that point. But when they get to that point, I must acknowledge that, right? Because that's exactly what the Messiah would do. He's like, I'm not going to, she's not going to chase you no more. Like we read last week in, what, Sirach 24, I believe, talking about wisdom. And she ain't going to go looking for you. She ain't going to go looking for you at all. But when you get here, she's going to recognize that you're here and she's going to embrace you with open arms. But how are you going to know if you don't check? So you got to keep looking at things again. As we talked about last week, we got to keep looking at things and keep going. So as we keep looking at things and keep going, we find the the quote unquote matrix being revealed. Like it literally says in Exodus 13, somewhere like that. In that verse it talks about the matrix. That's a womb. That's going back into the mindset. So the matrix will be in beginning. What did what did Abba speak for us? A way outside of the matrix. He spoke Alachayim. He spoke Alachayim into existence for us of heaven towards earth. Right? So this is what's going on all together. Right? Let's keep on going. Verse 3. Um, the Yahweh. Why does it say the Yahweh? Because even right there, I didn't even see that till now. Praise Yah. That's the righteous hand of the Father, right? But it says the Yahweh, right? Life spoke life in us. Khan. That's right. The Yahweh talks about the righteous direction. So right there, we already see what the righteous direction is. The righteous direction of who? Abba. Because we always got to ask of who, right? So that way we get the right mind frame and things. So the righteous direction is slow to anger and great in power. So what's great in power? Being slow to anger, being slow to being neurotypical, being slow to, a lot of this is just I don't like it, but a lot of it, that's my flesh. A lot of it is just telling me to squash it. To squash a lot of stuff. Like not even to go and be so hunky dory and oh I love you so much. I do, but it's like this, like, all right, boom. Brother Dorsey, he was over here today, already in the bag, already in the bag. I said, brother, you already over here talking about what I'm going into today, right? But he's talked about going into the cave. I made a post on TikTok about Elijah depressing himself into a cave. And that cave dwelling is a part. Is by this is this the righteous house that you're led into by the righteous direction of the Father for a point, for a time to recollect it, come out with things. By the time you come out of that bite, you should be outside the matrix. You should be neurodivergent. Things shouldn't be irritating your soul as much, right? And this is not me talking down on anybody. This is me talking to me because that's what this is. But at this point, that's what this is getting to. Let's keep going. Verse 3, and will not at all acquit. See there? That's what I love when this. All right, we about to get in now. We about to get in because I promise you, this is not. I told y'all before. Like I don't have a script. I don't. I have a lot of points, and I got tired of trying to fit into a script and me never going by the script. So I feel like I was wasting time. What was that telling me? Neurodivergent. I could have been neurotypical and just said forget it. But neurodivergent says, okay, I'm gonna try it like this. I'm not gonna be unorganized, but I'm not gonna make a point by point bullet list. So that way things like this come out like that. Will not at all acquit. And it says in parentheses, the wicked. See, this is why you got to pay attention right there too about the wicked in parentheses, because not parentheses, italicized. When it's italicized in the Bible, we see, or in this Bible excerpt that was taken from the scroll, right? The concentrated points that they said was more important, right? Um, the wicked, but you could absolutely take that out. That was added in there. We don't add nothing. We don't change no jot, no tittle. So it says, well, not at all acquit the wicked, but the wicked thoughts would be the way they should have put that. But it would not at all acquit, which would be, if you would acquit, you would be in a wicked thought. You know what I'm saying? So you see how already right there they they get you trying not to accept the sinner, right? Like I heard Kofi talk about before earlier, like the people that be mad at somebody's sin are the people that are doing worse. Because at that time, what are you doing? You're holding on to something. You're holding on to a place that somebody has gone by. Somebody has quote unquote conquered something, a place somebody has already been past, right? Everybody is walking on this path. Everybody's taking a step forward. So can you really judge somebody for where they're at if they're constantly taking another step, whether it be a side step, a back step, a forward step, any step? Um, you got to be able to know that this is still a walk, right? This will keep you out of the place where you're trying to hold something over somebody. Like my thing here recently, boom. I'm not gonna go into too much detail, not too much detail, but me recently, I had to accept this, right? Because I was very angry about something, and we know that's already a sin, right? But it was because I was trying to hold on to a place of somebody in a position. I was trying to hold somebody in that position, and the whole time they're not even there. Whole time they saw it, they acted right, they apologized, and they kept moving, but my heart was just like, no, 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 because I was being neurotypical. What I saw was what I wanted to be, period. Nothing more, nothing less. That's what it's gonna be. It says self-awareness is a secret weapon. That's fact. Self-awareness is the secret weapon. Self-awareness is neurodivergency. But you got to be able to have both, because everybody is neurodivergent and neurotypical, right? So going through the scrolls and stuff like that, really seeing, I'm excited to get to the David part, but really seeing how is this neurodivergent, this how normal people were. You know what I mean? How out of class people were, but they were seen as such wise people. It was the neurotypical people, the rulers. It was the pharaohs. It was the Pontius Pilates, in a sense, because even him, he got it right. But it would be the Nebuchadnezzars. It would be um, all these would be the neurotypicals, but the neurodivergence would be Daniel, David, Moses, Abraham, Adam, Shem. Like we could keep going, but we keep going in this word. After the colon, the righteous direction hath his way in the whirlwind, and in the storm, and the clouds, the dust of his feet. So what does that mean? Right there. Again, take that italicized R out there. We're gonna read it for what it originally was, so we can see what we're supposed to get from it. Nahum chapter 1 verse 3 says, "The righteous direction is slow to anger and great in power, and will not at all acquit. Yahweh, the righteous direction, hath his way in the whirlwind." That would be the Ravak. The wind we talked about, no, it was a random live. The wind we talked about before, in the live I went on, talking about how in the beginning was, the gases, right? That's a form of air, right? The gases are heated up and then cooled. That's a work of the wind. That's the work of Abba using that Ravak Hakodash of him to heat up and cool. Heat up and cool those gases. You cool those gases, you get water. Water compact together again by wind brings up all the sediments and together in such a powerful way that it brings up underwater volcanoes, right? Which go up into the atmosphere. The atmosphere full of gases, full of ravak. Can't see. Even when the wind's not moving, we still breathe, right? All this of the Holy Spirit, right? So when it talks about the whirlwind and in the storm, it's talking about everything that we can see, because everything we see is of the clouds. What do I mean by that? Just like we described what happened, the wind, the water, all that's in the clouds, right? All that is where the rain collects and precipitates. Also, it says in the scroll that Yahashai Hamashahe would be coming in the clouds, right? Which would be the moisture and all that stuff too, which would also make the earth, right? Because it all had to come from a heated up gas thing to a water thing to a land thing. So essentially, the clouds, what we see around us, all is in the clouds. You know what I'm saying? So it all breaks down to that, all the way down to the minute details. Everything is very important, and it's all written right here. But you had to be neurodivergent in order to see these things. You got to know the process. You got to be able to break out that matrix, as they're saying. Because I used to be against that word for real. But now I see what they were saying. I just won't there yet. So I got to repent for what I was saying about then. Like, these people is tripping. But I get what they're saying now, exactly, right? And in the storm and the clouds, the dust of his feet. So the dust of his feet, let's go backwards, is in the clouds, which is in the storm from the beginning, which was all held together and moved by the whirlwind of the Ravak, right? As above, so below. Okay, so the dust of his feet, we could tell that that is the clouds. We could just work that backwards and see that right there. That's how you study the scroll. You got to go forward, you got to go backwards, you got to loop the thing, you got to do all that just to get. And there's still more. Let's go to verse 4. He rebuketh the sea, as in he controls the uprising, the waves, the crashing. The sea also representing waters of people. So these are governments, these are ways, these are thoughts, right? These are the way we walk because of how we are attached to the Ravak in the waters, right? Because the Ravak connects to the waters literally in the winds and everything like that. So now we see how we connect to the waters as well, right? Right? Yeah, you feel me? So verse 4, he rebuketh the sea and maketh it dry, and drieth up all the rivers. Bashan languisheth, and Carmel and the flower of Lebanon languisheth. Verse 5, the mountains quake at him. Those are the problems in life. And the hills melt. Those are the problems, And the earth is burned at his presence, as in a refining fire, as in that Yahweh, that righteous direction is amongst everything, constantly being refined according to the moves made, right? Like we know before, everything is already dipped in wisdom. What we see now is knowledge and understanding. That's the connection we see now, right? Um, Yea, the world and all that dwell therein, right? So that's also talking about the system of things. We can see right there, it talks about, again, the beginning of things or how things started. But when these prophets are writing these testimonies, they're writing them from a place of um, understanding, obviously, right? But they're writing it from a place of memorial archivists, right? We're gonna stop right there. And we're gonna move. So I'm gonna remember verse 6. um, you look, and after and yeah, we'll go to Moses, the archivist, right? So let's see, boom, 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 boom. Because I want to get this right. I don't want to miss anybody's name. So I got to pull up my other notes. So boom, when memorial archivist. So we are needed. It's ordained, right? In order to dwell therein, you follow the traits and the ways of our ancestors, right? And on that point, what I'm talking about is the memorial archivists. These are the ones that kept the ways of the ancestors. They repeated the stories. They held traditions, right? Let me just go down to a little line of things before we get to Moses. Moses being an archivist as well, right? Talking about all this together, right? Yeah, in and out of season. That's right. So basically going deeper into that. So from Adam, right? Adam walking with Ravak. Adam getting the real deal Holyfield of everything. Adam taught Methuselah. Okay? We say Methuselah. Adam would have spoken to everybody, but one that would carry that trait in that line would be Methuselah. Methuselah was with Noah when they were talking about the flood coming, right? They actually were the ones that buried Adam. Okay? So after Methuselah taught majority of this and worked with and but even more as a guide and a Borah, if you would know that term, was to be a teacher, to Shem or Shem. Now Shem already knowing things because of his father Noah, because remember Noah had Shem, Ham, and Japheth, right? Or Yapat, or it goes to the Hebrew character pronunciations, but we'll keep it here for this. So Shem learning things not only from his father, but reiterating things from his grandfather, in a sense, right? Um, and it literally, I believe, but my mind can't go there right now, right? So Shem carrying the weight after Noah, right? And Methuselah. So basically carrying all that. Shem also living 600 years, right? So keep in mind, we got Adam, we got Methuselah, we got Shem. Adam overlapped Methuselah and Noah, right? Shem, who did he overlap? He overlapped Abraham. Okay, these are the memorial archivists, right? Abraham studied Shem. Shem also taught Jacob, right? Because he was sent back to learn from him as well. Also, we could find that in Jasher. Also knowing that Shem, not just a specific person, but also when you learn from somebody or you speak something, you speak Shemitic, you speak Shem, you speak authority, you speak Ibrit, you speak Hebrew. Um, I speak my father, Steve Senior. I speak what he taught me, in that type of area. So we go from Adam to Methuselah, Methuselah, um, and yeah, Adam, Methuselah, and Noah. Then we go to Shem. Shem teaching Abraham and Jacob, right? We're still going down. Shem outlived Abraham, right? And we're gonna go all the way down to the role of Levi, because after that we get the 12 patriarchals in there, right? So mind you, all these still being taught too, okay? By Adam and by the people keeping these things, which we should do, right? Levi, Levitical priesthood, who kept the stories during slavery times of Kemet, right? And from the slavery times of Kemet, we go to Kohath or Kahav, which is the son of Levi, okay? And that Kahav or Kohath would be the grandfather of Moses, okay? So you see how far back this all goes? And from the grandfather of Moses, he obviously taught Amram, the father of Moses, and then so on and so forth. But we must be a memorial archivist. So to be a memorial archivist, that's to dwell amongst the origination of things, right? So to be neurodivergent, you have to be a memorial archivist. You got to know all the ins and outs. You got to be able to study. You got to know the characters. You got to be able to keep telling these things, because this has come from Adam all the way to now has come from Adam. Everything I'm saying here, meditating on and speaking out, comes from Adam. See how cool that is, that it all comes together, right? Um, let's keep on going. Back to Nahum chapter 1, verse 6. So after all that, right? Who can stand before his indignation? Who can abide in the fierceness of his anger? His fury is poured out like fire, and the rocks are thrown down by him. The righteous direction is righteous, a strong hold in the day of trouble, and he knoweth them that trust in him, those memorial archivists. He's intimate with them. Verse 8, but with an overrunning flood he will make an utter end of the place thereof, and darkness shall pursue his enemies. Right? I'm going to stop right there. So with all that being said, what we've gotten so far, just to group it all together so that way we can keep going on the same understanding. Right there we went to Nahum. Nahum is a comforter. Basically, he reiterated what he was told before. All the prophets did this. All the prophets were memorial archivists. All the prophets did this. Everything they're writing about is the revelation or the revealing of seeing things neurodivergent versus neurotypical. We could break it down right there. Boom, bam, right there, right? So after that, we're going to go to, we're just going to precept it out, really. We're going to precept it out from here, I believe. Yep. So we're going to go to the inward man. We're going to talk about the inward man. We're basically precepting of being properly planted, being in the righteous place, being in the place you're supposed to be. Talking about Joseph. We're still in the 12 patriarch series, but we're on Joseph. We already did Joseph before we started it. I believe that's what sprung us into this. So what we're doing today is basically giving my testimony on how I was able to find the properly planted place for me that may resonate with other people, right? One who is neurodivergent has access to the Ascardic Record. Memorial Archive. Yes, sir. Bibliotheca. Yep, exactly. Same library. Right? So, again, this testimony is just when I realized I was neurodivergent, right? So I took me realizing I'm neurodivergent, again, taking it from a place where it was broken down by um failing spirits, broken down into pieces for somebody to concentrate on specifically, not really to notice what's going on. Because a lot of times in the medical field they tell you to practice expressing it, but really you got to practice internalizing it. It always started there. So when I realized I was neurodivergent, I said, okay, let me apply that to the Bible and the Apocrypha and the scrolls. So I took that neurodivergent and I looked at everything. And I started to notice things in people because I want to be able to handle this. And the strongest of people were so neurodivergent. So neurodivergent. If we're gonna go into the inward man, 2 Corinthians chapter 4, we're gonna go there, but I'm gonna introduce how I got here. Right? So 2 Corinthians chapter 4, for let's see what I say, 16 through 18. We'll be around there because we know how we're about to be moving. So we are meant to sit in our own thoughts, right? We create from nothing. Right? We create from nothing. I was looking at my notes like, what in the world does that mean? But yeah, there we go. We are meant to sit in our own thoughts and we create from nothing. The traits that broke us are needed to survive in the wild. It was never a bad hand. This is being neurodivergent and realizing this. The only reason we are called neurodivergent is because society diverged. So the society fell into a mind frame of Pharaoh, of a framework, because like we dream outside of a frame. We look in the prism or the reality of things through a frame. So what we see is specifically given to us for in that time and space for us to bring it to our hearts and for our hearts to be able to handle the emotions from the beast of the field and to move accordingly. That's what we do, right? But society diverged and left us in a place where we had to feel lower a little bit about ourselves just because we see things for what they are, but also acknowledging the typical. So that framework, that seeing everything through a specific frame and applicable, but we must also dream. Dream speaks to us more deeply than anything, and dreams are out of framework, right? So we bringing these things together, but there's still both sides. But in the society things, they tell us not to think about that type of stuff. They want us to express what they are giving to us. The neurotypical things, neurotypical imagination, again, even written for them. Because the neurotypical doesn't really think about the neurodivergent. The neurotypical becomes ego, what they see. We must have both. We must be neurotypical and neurodivergent. Oftentimes, again, things are broken down and broken down into little pieces so that way we concentrate on one thing and forget about the other. That is the work of the fallen angels. That's to get us to think there's only one thing we got to concentrate on, but when we must accept what we've already been through and work it with what we're concentrated on, right? Again, we're meant to sit in our own thoughts, create from nothing, meaning in a sense of create from a frame point to create an outer framework, because they would call that nothing in society. They would call that impossible in society. Meditating on such a high level as David did, you know, um, David, thinking about this, we're going to go to Psalms 139 later on, but David is one that was able to meditate on such a very high level. This is where I say people got to be careful on this because people could take these things. I was talking to somebody special and they gave me a great note to say too. A lot of times people they take something like this and be like, oh, well, he can do this, and they go too deep into it, right? You can get caught up in something because one thing about meditating on such a level is a place where evil spirits are able to encompass and touch things and do things, and you got to be careful with these type of things. But David was one when he went into these places of songs, of worship, intense prayers, intense meditation. In order to see things for what they really are, you must go to an intense meditative state to see things as they are not. right? These bring the praises, these bring the songs, these bring the dances. But you can see how these songs come out different, these dances come out crazy, you see, because people are meditating on such a high place, but coming back with the broken spirit things because they're not first concrete in the way of how things are supposed to go. That's how you get to the evil points of everything, right? Must be grounded. Come on now, must be grounded. We talked about this, right? It must be grounded, right? Um, let's see. So yeah, let's go to the inward man. Go to Second Corinthians chapter 4, verse 16 through 18. Again, when we read things now, we're reading things through a prism that is not neurotypical. We are speaking and understanding things for what they are truly of. Something out of nothing, nature, or nurture our world. Oh, I like that. I like that. I like that. Got some works with that already. So we go to Second Corinthians chapter 4, verse 16. Let's go there. The thing about my mind, I will flip and start looking at scriptures, and I'll start seeing, hey, does this go? Does this go? Does this go? But this is not what's for today. All right, let's keep going. Second Corinthians chapter 4, verse 16 through 18. I'm telling you, my mind it gets hungry. All right, boom. So we're gonna read chapter 4. We're gonna read from the beginning and read through verse 18. So here it talks about at the top of my Bible it says preaching. It says preaching Christ Jesus or preaching Yahashua Hamashach. Okay, preaching the way of work, preaching the way to do these things, preaching the mindset of things. Oftentimes, boom, just like this, for example. Before we get to reading, David and Yahashua, put them two right there at the top of the screen. Okay, so remember they asked Yahashua. They were like, "Why is it that you speak in parables?" He said it's not meant for everybody to understand. Okay, doesn't that sound very neurodivergent versus neurotypical? So neurodivergent will be able to understand these things. Neurodivergent will be able to again make songs and hymns and use these words, terminologies, and even Psalms 22, right? The one that the Messiah quoted, right? Even these things, David had to be on such a level to coincide with something that the Messiah would use. It's not meant for everybody to understand until you could literally admit that you've got to be a little wild to work this thing. Like you got to seem a little out there because you're not going to see what you need to see. Me talking about the clouds, the water, how it all came together, stuff like that. People will look at me and say, "What is wrong with you?" Because I'm not thinking neurotypical. You can't think neurotypical and you can't be neurotypical. You could think neurotypically and you could think neurodivergently, but you cannot be neurotypical only because you're going to miss everything. That's essentially what the Messiah was saying. In order to preach this, now that we know that and see things a little deeper, now when we read things, look at how different it looks. Okay, I'm gonna walk with you a little bit. Therefore, 2 Corinthians chapter 4. We're gonna read the whole chapter basically. I thought we were gonna go 16 through 18, but that was just a little dot on the map. All right, let's go. So it says, therefore what? Seeing. So therefore, before, after, future, now. Therefore, because that is what's here. All right. Therefore, seeing we have this ministry, we have this work, we have this mindset. We can see things for what they really are. We have received mercy as an alleviated option for life, an alleviated way. So the narrow path versus the wide path. So the narrow is fully dependent on Abba, fully dependent on that. You see something and you're like, okay, boom. Yeah, I don't know what's going on, but I got to keep my mind on this. The wide path looks at everything else, right? Not seeing that there's a reason for everything. Okay. Verse 2. Yeah, receive mercy, we faint not. Verse 2, but have renounced the hidden things of dishonesty. The hidden things of dishonesty, because what's really hidden? Not much once you get to looking and studying. All right. Not walking in craftiness, not walking in the things we made up, not walking in the things that people have written to come about or encompass or even bring to be our imagination. How is your imagination already written? That's crazy work, right? But that's what the neurotypicals do. That's what those that are stuck in the system do. And it's not to break things down or talk down on them, but this is where they are. But I wouldn't be able to see that unless I thought neurodivergently. I believe that. That might be a word. It might not be. But this is where we come to, right? Let's keep going. Nor handling the word of Alachayim deceitfully, right? Deceitfully. That means outside of the word. That means telling people, oh, you're neurotypical. Or telling people, you're neurodivergent. No, we're all of both. We have to be of both. You're telling somebody to concentrate on one thing and prevents them from realizing who they truly are, to make themselves dependent on something that's not truly helping them. You see what I'm saying? It could help them in a sense of things like that, but you got to have an understanding first. Just like this, like anything I say, that's why I like coming out with scripts and precepts. Like, don't just take anything that somebody says and run with it. You find scriptures that backs that up. Keep going until you find it. If you don't, that's not what it is, right? But let's keep going. But by manifestation of the truth, right? Commending ourselves to every man's conscience in the sight of Alachayim. So in the sight of the righteous direction, we see ourselves commending ourselves to every man's conscience. Commending, being one with, but not being encapsulated by, but being able to understand everybody in the sight of the righteous direction. Because in the beginning, the intent was for the righteous direction to be in the blood, water, and spirit from heaven into earth, right? That was the original intent, but that's not the way it ended up being. It ended up being broken up a little bit. So right here, we find ourselves commending ourselves to every man's conscience in the sight of Alachayim. This is preaching Yahashua HaMashiach. This is preaching the walk. Break down those Hebrew characters of part of Abba, right, for the work of us, right? So verse 3, but if our gospel be hid, or this has many similes. Synonyms. You could go with, let's see, but if our gospel be hid, if our testimony, if our work, if our impact, if the way that what we use to teach, right, be hid, it is hid to them that are lost. Okay, so gospel basically breaking down to what we use to teach. So if what we use to teach be hid, it is hid to them that are lost. Everybody reads the Psalms of David, everybody reads this and that, but don't realize how high of a meditation place you got to be. The Messiah was usually by himself. Because I can see how frustrated it is, like people that just, it's overwhelming because a lot of times, and it's not a bad thing, this is the work that we chose, because one thing we want is to help people, right? This is the work that we chose. But oftentimes, um, you get crowded, you get overwhelmed, you get pulled at a lot, right? But that's okay. You will never get pulled away. You will never have anything pulled away from you that you need to sit down on. He's not gonna pull the seat from up under you, right? You will never get anything pulled away that you need to sit down on, right? We keep on going. That was tough. Verse 4, in whom the idol of this world has blinded the minds of them which believe not. That sounds about accurate, right? Lest the light of the glorious way of teaching of Yahashua, who is the image of Alachayim. So the way that it's supposed to hit, he understood exactly where we're supposed to get to. He's gonna tell you and break it down exactly where you're supposed to go, but he breaks it down in a metaphorical way, which is yawsome sauce, because the metaphorical to use metaphorical things or examples, the metaphors naturally break down the brain's natural defenses. So even if you don't get it right then, you're going to get it later on, right? It's going to be set in there, set in stone. So by the time you get to the realization of things, you go back and you read it, you can see exactly what they were saying. Because all the prophets, in order to be a prophet, you had to know to think like this. The in and out, the balance of pressure. Think plain. Oh yeah, what was Doris say? So yeah, yeah, yeah. All throughout all the levels of the winds. Yes, the in and out, the balance of pressure. Man, the aerodynamics. Yeah, y'all found y'all sis gave y'all a rabbit hole. Dive in on that. To that sis. The image, yes, see, verse 4, the end of that should shine unto them, right? Verse 5, we preach not ourselves, but Yahashua HaMashiach, the way, right? The way around things, right? This is the way. And ourselves, your servants, for Yahashua's sake. So for teaching this, our servitude, our work is to teach these things. Peter in the water, come on now. Come on now. Keep on dropping them, sis. we gonna teach. We're gonna bring this thing out. For Alachayim, verse 6, for Alachayim who commanded the light to shine out of darkness, to command the enlightenment to shine out of the quote unquote void, to be made from nothing. There's really no such thing as nothing. Let's just throw that out there, right? So that's what I mean by creating it from nothing, because that's the terminology we are given that people can correlate on and understand the vernaculars that I'm using out of my voice box. Okay, so that's what you see. All these words can sound kind of cool, but mean simply the same thing. All right. I'm about to say I could talk like that. I'm telling you, I can code switch up real quick, but that's not my testimony. Verse 6, for Alachayam who commanded the light to shine out of darkness has shined in our hearts. Again, in our hearts is where things come to be seen, to be made, to be known, to be worked, right? That is the beast of the field, right? Has shined in our hearts. We'll get deeper into that later, right? But remember all these precepts and go back in, because the way I'm reading them and what I get from them might not be what somebody else needs to hear. It's not even what you hear from what by me reading it, right? It might resonate something else. Speak that out, get that out there. In whatever way, shape, or form you're led to do it, but get that out there. Just throwing that in there. Verse 7. No, verse 6. For Alachayim, who commanded the light to shine out of darkness, have shined in our hearts to give the light of knowledge, right? Of the glory or the impact of Alachayim, which will be including everything, which will be buoyancy, right? Peter was all good in the water until he looked around and said, how in the world am I doing this? Sink. Right? When he started looking around and started looking at it neurotypically, right? You see that? Looking at it neurotypically, all of a sudden, next thing you know, he started sinking because he stopped thinking neurodivergent. He said, boy, you're so leafy. Sometimes you go with the winds, sometimes you don't. Right? Verse 7. But we have this, yeah. So no, let's finish verse 6. Great day. We got apparently that thing's chunky. To the light of the knowledge of the glory of Alachayim in the face of Yahashua HaMashiach. So yes, the face is when it talks about the face, is face to face, speaking to speaking, communication to communication. This is how we preach the way of Yahashua HaMashiach. First seeing it in the way, right? Also seeing how before, even in oh, lost it. It'll come back if it's necessary. To get the light and the knowledge of the glory of Alachayim in the face of Yahashua HaMashiach. Verse 7, we have this treasure in earthen vessels, so in our vessels, that the excellency of power may be of Alachayim and not of us, right? Oh, that's what it was. That was for me. All right, that was for me. To DAVAD. Back to this. Verse 7, but we have this treasure in earthen vessels, that the excellency of the power may be of Alachayim and not of us, troubled on every side, yet not distressed, right? Perplexed, but not in despair, because now we know to be neurodivergent and not neurotypical. Let's keep going. Persecuted, but not forsaken. Cast down, but not destroyed. Always bearing about in the body the dying of the Adon, Yahashua, that the life also of Yahashua might be made manifest in our body. So to remember what you had to no longer live to become of. To remember what you had to leave in order to see. Because if we do not see like him, we're not able to be like him. And people, what's the one thing that people say in other communities? They'll say, hey, that's blasphemy. You're not supposed to say that. Well, that means that they're stopping. They're thinking neurotypically and not neurodivergent. You have to think like that. In order to get anywhere in this walk, you have to. You have to. You have to. But distracting people from that keeps them in places where they're malnourished. Right? Verse 10, always bearing about in the body the dying of the Adon, Yahashua, that the life also of Yahashua might be made manifest in our body. For we which live are always delivered unto death for Yahushua. So that just means Yahushua's sake. So those which live righteously are always delivered unto the place where they will be shaking off something, where they will be releasing something, where they will be growing higher in something. Because why? We got that hunters mentality. It's like, how'd you even get that, brother? I got you. Right? We're gonna get back to verse 11. Right? So the hunter's mindset. Oftentimes when I realized how I found out I was neurodivergent, I'm used to I'd rather catch on to things quick. I usually catch on to things quick because neurodivergence we're able to catch on to practices, patterns, stuff like that quickly. And for those that are usually able to do that, what's one thing that frustrates us when we're reading something is that we don't get it the first time we read it. The one thing that frustrates us is like, man, how many times do I have to keep reading this verse till I get what it's saying? Because we're used to just within 5-10 minutes we're used to getting it, right? The hunter, right? Imagine an animal in the wild, right? The hunter would be they wouldn't mess around with something too long. They'll look at something they want to hunt, and they would was basically grasping the concept. So when they want to grasp a concept, right, they won't even mess around with it for too long. They're not going to chase it for too long. How fast can a cheetah run for how long? They're not going to do it for so long. If they don't get it initially, they're like, forget it. That's what frustrates us as neurodivergence, right? I'm telling you, it hurt when I, but this is why I like realizing this, right? Because then we could find those that were neurodivergent in the scroll and see exactly what they were doing and what they were going through and going to. The first one, top one, being your hotspot, right? But that's oftentimes what happens. We don't get it in that instant time, but because we let other things creep upon us, those creeping things. Ezekiel 29 talks about that, the creeping things. Um, yeah, we have a hunter's mindset. So look up a hunter's mindset and look up and try to follow the traits of that. That's how you tune yourself up. The neurodivergent. Don't go into a quote unquote book. You go into the animals and the things and how they naturally act and how they naturally adapt and how they naturally go through things. That's what you go to. That's what you go through in order to learn, who you are and how you are. So first thing, my recommendation for those that are like me in the mind, look up neurodivergent, look up neurotypical, look up hunter's mindset, look up Psalms of David, right? And we'll get more as we keep going. But let's go back to verse 11. That's chapter 4 of 2 Corinthians. That the life also of Yahushua might be made manifest in our mortal flesh. So then death worketh in us, but life in you. What does that mean? I got you. This one, I grabbed this from something that Sis sent me, sent to us in our group. But the guy said, what we do here, so basically what they're talking about, verse 12, so then death worketh in us, but life in you, right? Us being we here today, right? It's that basically means this allows you to carry the encounter without the repeat of injury. I'm gonna say that one more time. This allows you to carry the encounter without the repeat of injury. This is peace. Don't suffer twice the change of mind. Right? We keep going. Verse 13. We having the same spirit of faith, according as it is written, I believed, and therefore have I spoken. We also believe, and therefore speak the same, right? Knowing that he which raised up the Adon, or Adonai, Adonai being the image of that AY at the end, Adon, more so referencing Abba, but these terminologies are titles encompassed by people. So you encompass this, you step into this, you step into a title of things, okay? Um, shall raise up also by Yehoshaphat and shall present with you. So let's read that again. Verse 14, knowing or the intimacy which he has raised up, the mindset of Yehoshaphat HaMashiach shall raise up us also by Yehoshaphat. Because what did Yehoshaphat had to do? He had to take sin with him. Right? He had to go into a mindset. He had to become and look at and carry sin. So that same things, like that's all. Imagine how much of every single wicked way of thinking, all that he had to carry. So he had to be raised up just like us, right? Um, he already knew what was going to happen. He knew it was going to be fine. Um, um, I would like to think. Can that really be proven? but it can be gathered, right? But he had to carry all that. So the same thing that raised him up would be the same thing that raised him up because he encountered way more than we did. This little bit of sin I got to deal with ain't nothing to what he had to carry, right? But what he carried and brought back was a way out. So for every single sin, there's now a neurodivergent path to get around that because it had to be figured out. Because for every action, there's an equal and or opposite reaction. It had to be figured out. You see how science, you know, they try to overtake the Bible, but Bible gives you facts. Science gives you theory. Okay? Theory, theoretical, to help you figure out the fact. But eventually you got to leave one behind and take the fact over the other. That's all. Verse 15, for all things, for your sakes. She did it again. That the abundant grace or the abundant impact might, through the thanksgiving of many, redound to the glory of Allah Hayam, redound to the impact of Allah Hayam. Thanksgiving being a fasting. So the giving of thanks by taking away the things that were wicked upon us and not seeing them no more, but the giving of. So to sit there and fast and actually think about the righteous things and not the wicked things, to marinate on the righteous and not the wicked, right? So read verse 15 again. For all things, for your sakes, that the abundant impact might, through the thanksgiving or the fasting or the concentrating on righteous things of many, redound to the glory of Allah Hayam, which is exactly what the Messiah went through, right? On the knowing that all things for our sakes, and that the abundant impact might, through the fasting or the work, if you don't do the work, it's going to show, of many, redound to the glory of the impact of Allah Hayam, for which cause we faint not. There is no way for us to fall. But though our outward man perish, the inward man is renewed day by day. Come on. For our light affliction, or the contact of light upon us, the enlightenment upon us, which is but for a moment, worketh for us far more exceeding eternal weight of impact. So far more exceeding the internal weight. That says something very heavy right there. Far more exceeding eternal weight. How do we even make that? How do we even get that? Because that just hit more heavier. So even our mindset of what we think is eternal, it exceeds more than that. Take that with a grain of salt. Even what we see and perceive as eternal, based off of what we get from defining a term, a fact, a thing, right? So God goes far more than what we even see. So it also makes us think about somebody, I believe it might have been Paul, right? That said that these things are just a glimpse of what's eternal, right? To concentrate on more than that. Because just concentrating on that is neurotypical. Just concentrating necessarily specifically on if you hold this day is neurotypical. But do you know what this day means? Or do you hold it with you for daily purposes, for work, for preaching the walk of your Hashfar Hamashah? Hey, do you do that? That's neurodivergent. That's being able to see, okay, I know what this holy day means, but this person is acting right and righteously like that. Okay, I can see that and tell them, hey, correlating this to a holy day will keep you in remembrance of this. You know, you get deeper into the word. Why wouldn't you do this? Why wouldn't you do what the Messiah does? Right? It brings that all together. And verse 18, we finish it out. While we look not at the things which are seen, right? But at the things which are not seen. For the things which are seen, temporal, typical. But the things which are not seen, eternal, neurodivergent. Come on. Let's keep on going. Let's see. Where we gonna go? Where we gonna go? We got a little bit of Hebrew characters to jump into. So, random side note. Well, we talked about Moses before, and Moses described himself as slow of speech and tongue, which will mean slow of the acknowledgement of speech amongst people, right? Which is basically quick to hear and slow to speak. He observed it all. Slow of speech and tongue. That's not going with the typical of this means this means this means this. But what does that person mean by or what is that person in when they say, or what has that person gone through to be saying this. That's what they mean by what they're saying. Even when we go down to words and stuff like that. Even when I said Abba is his true authority, like Abba is his name. And like when I said that, people were like, whoa, 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 whoa. It's like, whoa, whoa, be quick to hear and slow to speak. You haven't really marinated on this, have you? That's what that means. But me seeing that, I'm not gonna go back and forth with them and call them absent of the smartness of the mind. I'm not gonna go there. I'm not gonna say that their brain ain't working right. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna give them what they need to go look for to find where they need to be. I'm gonna give them the places to go read. I'm gonna give them the additives they need to add to there because it might not have enough seasoning on that thing, you know? It might just need a little bit more on there, you know what I'm saying? But I'm not gonna sit here and say they are low class citizens and stuff like that. Where your mind is can be higher than that. It's not really being a motivational speaker altogether, but it's to meet somebody where they are. But yet that's so frowned upon because it's not just in the beginning thou shalt do. It's not just robotic like that. So people see it as you're adding stuff or you're doing too much or it is what it is by itself. You don't need to do no more to it. No. Abba gave us the word already. What we're supposed to do is focus in on this more, to dive in on it more. So even Moses described himself as slow of speech and tongue. That says a lot. That says a lot right there. That said a lot to me. Um, and all we learned in school was the words of nature's actions. This is being neurodivergent to help me see this. All we learned in school was words of natures and actions. That's how I was able to see that about Moses when he said that too. Slow of speech and tongue. To see things and to see deeper in things, people be like, how do you do it? This is how. How'd you get that word from that? This is how. I'm neurodivergent. I'm like David. I'm like Moses. I'm like Abraham. I'm like etc. 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 Like the Messiah. You know, all these people had to be neurodivergent. And when you go to that mindset, you see all we learned in school was the words of nature's actions. So they took the nature's actions and made it addition, division, multiplication, etc., etc., etc. That's what was made from these things, right? But now, haha, now we get to my favorite part of this. I didn't rush because we took our time to get to this. All right, we're gonna talk about David being staying in the sense of being properly planted, staying in the sense of Joseph. Even if you want to go into the study of Joseph, and you know many of us have already, but if you want to, the study of the baker and oh man, the cupbearer, the works of baking, the works of cupbearing, right? Just sticking your cup under any water source just to get up out of there, or the baker being the one that is eating up. You know what I mean? To see the neurodivergent, to see the other side of things, you got to see both sides. But the baker was one that was able to see things, baking in his mind, but yet the one that's always talked about, yet the one that's always attacked by the birds of the sky, by the thoughts of the minds of others who just aren't there yet. But you got to be able to take that. You got to be able to take that because that, believe it or not, leaves a seed. Leaves a seed. Like no response is the best response. Oftentimes, that's what that really means. Like, why he ain't even say nothing about that? Like, I didn't done this and this and this, and he ain't even talking about it. You know, that's that's a seed. Little do they know they're talking to themselves out loud, and they ready to talk themselves into an answer. All praises, all praises. Um, but David, divide, DVD. We might already see where we're going with that. So in between the nail place, we have a dalat, and a dalat. Let me just go ahead and where that pen at? Where that pen? I know there's a pen close because if I'm talking and there's a scroll near, there's a pen there. All right. So we got dalit, we got vav, and we got dalit. This is D V D or David, right? Or DAVAD, right? So boom. So we have a door, we have the middle, which is Vav being nailed, and then on the other side we have a door. Okay, so that's Dalat, Vav, Dalat. So it looks like this when I say DVD, okay? DVD, you put a disc in something, it plays something, and what it plays, you receive, okay? Right there, right? Or we could go even deeper. Dalat. Dalat is a door, right? Dalit is a door. Dalit is a door where there's a hole right here, right? This is part of my arrested development to character development to sis. But we got this hole, this way of thinking, but there's a way to walk across that. There's a line, there's a guide, right? This same line comes from Allah. It comes from the source of going into the righteous house. You come out with this line, you come out with this guide, and you come across a hole, you come across a pit, right? That you could be nailed to. So that looks like a hammer. That looks like a nail. That's a valve being nailed in place, right? So you get to a place where you go across to die, bro, to die. To get to a place where there's a hole, right? There's a line that you got to go across. That line, though, that you got from a source of a Allah or a Father, right? Of a Baal, of a Yahweh or Allah Chaim, or you got it from a Baal, right? That line that you walk across is going to determine if you fall into that hole, right? But whatever you go into, you're going to get the opposite and or equal reaction out of that. You see how these characters, they just teach you what's already there, right? And also, if you flip it sideways like that, it kind of looks like a D, right? But David, is one that was able to go to one side and the other of things, right? To go from one place of stress and desire to a place of reverence and worship. Okay, you went from a place of wanting to a place to being able to. Right. This is David. David was able to go from one door to the other by being nailed in place. So go from this one place in earth to be nailed to a thing of heaven and to come out in a heavenly way to bring out psalms and hymns. David is one that, but he came up in the field. He went to the waters to get the stones out the brooks. He protected the flock and the sheep. Hunter's mindset. All right. He messed up though. He messed up drastically for a reason though, because things had to happen in real life in order for them to be lessons later. Right. These things really happen. They really happen. They really happen. They really happen. But people see the lessons of it and see so much of the lessons, the neurotypical, that they forget the neurodivergent. That these things really happen. Okay. David had both of these. David was aware of both things. He chose which way he wanted to go. Literally, he chose. He knew what he could do. He knew what he couldn't do. He was a shepherd, care of the flock, right? He spoke in the same ways and hymns and songs and things, the same ones that the Messiah spoke, taught, learned from these people that were and that are, oh man, oh what is it? Archivists, memorial archivists. These are these people. David is another one. David had David had such a strong group with him too. When you see the musicians, so it's like Psalms 39 we're gonna read too, but it's a psalm that was basically one that was received and given as a psalm, right? So David had these musicians around to be able to go to marinate, yeah, but meditate to a point where they were able to be so holistic, holy in a sense to give David a song, right? Gad the seer. Gad was one that would receive dreams for David, right? And tell David things because them being aware of the framework of what we see here. Like you see the screen, you see the No Strings hoodie. That's my little clothing label. You see the Barack creations back there on the top left. That's the hair care products my bro be going on and my sisters and stuff. And then you got Shabbat Shalom blanket over there. Another one he had made me. Bruder Charlie. Let me know. I'll hook you up. But all these things, this is what we see, right? But these things came from visions, okay? The visions is what we work with. Let that marinate. The vision is what we work with. What we think about, what we want to do the next day, what we go with, what we plan. That's what we work with. But yet, when that next day comes, we just see what we see. You know what I'm saying? Oftentimes we forget to do something because we forget the vision that we're working with. We work off the vision, but we forget the vision once we start putting our hands on things and getting too caught up in things because we see things for what they really are. I can see where David was, where he saw how he was so protected, but then also saw that they need some help here because they're attracted. We're attracted to pain, believe it or not, because pain is explainable, and what we see is an explanation. Oftentimes, especially in this walk, I had to realize this myself. Again, with putting people in places where they shouldn't really be, and that's my fault, right? Oftentimes, we put people in roles of a father when they're just supposed to be your brother. You know, take that with a grain of salt. So what I mean by seeing them as a father, you would see them as a direct source. So anything that they do wrong is just so uprightly wrong that it's because you hold them to a standard of Abba Yah, right? But what we have to see is that these things really can be changed. These things really can be broken up. These things really can be not what they seem to be. Things can really be seen for in a moment. David was able to see the lion, the bear, right, for the moment. But if he would have thought that he was like his father Jesse, he might not have made it out. You know what I'm saying? David was casted aside to the field because David wasn't one of the ones that was all all gun ho about being in the military, or he wasn't the one that was caught up in the wars of things. He was more so wondering like, why are y'all scared of this uncircumcised Philistine? Like, what y'all got going on? Why y'all seeing things for what they are in front of your face? Why y'all being so neurotypical? He started off there. You could get comfortable in that, and it becomes so one with you that it becomes an ego and not a diverge point, right? Not a point that it splits into two, right? Almost like that valve as well. You see that divergent point of the line. As you think about things and get into these characters, it starts coming together even more. That was pretty cool. But David, these musicians, um, his guides, his eyes on some things, because he also realized that you couldn't see everything in one way from one person, right? But you had to have those that were trusted around you to do these things. Um, um, I'm gonna go to something really quick because I want to say this right. Yeah. So just like in Psalms 39, we're gonna read that first. We're gonna go to Psalms 39. Um, we're going to Psalms 39, Psalms 139, then we're going to go to chapter 1 of Gad the Seer, and then we're going to be done. All right? So, speaking of that, of David's, we're going to say David's posse. David, Psalm 39, it starts with the title, To the Chief Musician, Even to Jeduthun, a Psalm of David. Right? So, Jeduthun, or Yadavan, he was a musician and a worship leader during David's reign. He was one of the chief musicians. It says there were three, but I believe there were more. Through studies, you will see that there's more, many not named. But they were known for leading worship and giving thanks. So they were known for going into a place where they were in a very high elevation to sing so much praises, but they were able to do that safely and come back safely. Right? That's what Gad was able to do, to be trusted. So what's going on right here is a high meditative state. Now I see where people get so deep and they can get into some wicked stuff. But you've been to a place where you worship so strongly you start crying. Now tears are the most purest form of worship that's not damageable to the body. You could cry all day and nothing will happen to you. Right? Believe it or not. Believe it or not. Like, that's one of the safest things, but you're praising them so much that you just go into this place where you start having tears drop down. You could go to this place where they were speaking in tongues. You could go to this place where, you start seeing visions. Your dreams start connecting and making more sense. You start to see your dreams into reality based off what you marinated with Abba on about your dreams. Right? These were the people that were able to do that. Jedu Thon. We're gonna do that real quick, just to show you how it breaks down and what you can really see. Because this is what told me that, just to back it up. Because how do you do that, right? So I'm gonna write Jedu Thon, right? So we will got yeah. So fun, right? It's some repetition of characters in there, but we'll go to Psalms. Go to Psalm 39. I'm gonna type that in there real quick. Psalm 39. And for those that are able to see, Psalm 39. And yeah, Con. Like sometimes even in bro, even with Moses, that's what it was. That's what it was. But oftentimes when we get into a place of in schooling and stuff like that, we get put into these classes because of ways we don't fit into their made up system. So they would say I'm ADHD because I'm hyperactive and I don't pay attention. That's because this stuff don't make no sense. I don't need this. It seems like it was borrowed off something. I'm trying to figure out what it really is. Or you go to neurodivergent. Oh, you're not neurotypical enough. You need to be this and this because you're not fitting into where they want to put you into for a mindset. Just like Pharaoh. Pharaoh don't want you to know anything. Like Pharaoh wants you to be in his framework. But being outside the so Moses to himself, he was like, man, I just don't got it. I just ain't got it. But really, that was discouraging him and could have put him in a place where he muted himself and brought him back until he had his brother Aaron bringing him up out of that because Abba already had Aaron there prepared to bring him up out of his slumber of thinking. So that way he can do what he's supposed to do, not belittling ourselves and stuff like that. But yeah, great catch for sure. In Psalms 39. So when we get here, so y'all kind of see what I'm talking about. Yeah, my nails are too dirty. um, Jeduthon, right? Y'all can already see where I already did the character work to it, right? Chief musician, even to Jeduthon, a psalm of David. So even to or given to Jeduthon, a psalm of David, a psalm of going into one door and coming out of another door. So it's a work of DAVAD, not the person, but the work of the name of the authority given to David for a reason. So then we get to Yadavan, right? So now we're gonna do the characters today. 1 second. So we got Yadavan. Oh no, right to left. We got Yadavan. Down. Mm, all right, or boom. So here we go. Yadavan. So we got the righteous hand of the Father, or Yah, right? That's what I'm using. People say praise Yah, like thankful to the righteous direction of the Father. So we got Yah Divine. We got the righteous hand of the Father that sends you through a door of source of thinking to be nailed to his source of thinking for maturity or perfection. This is the name of the worship leader, Yah Divine, or Jeduthan, a psalm of David. So this person was able, through the righteous direction of the Father, to be able to go through a door of worship, of meditation, of divergency, right? Neurodivergency, in order to be nailed in the position of the source of the Father for maturity or perfection, or for the maturity and perfection of others, for the Psalms to help others sing in their times of need. So now we see how these like breaking this stuff down again. Practice it, you'll be able to see it deeper into what's going on because all these people, these names, now go through all the names that you do see that are given. These names were works, right? These names were necessary for you. So in order for you to be able to dalet vav dalat, you got to be able to yadavan. Okay, that's basically what when Abba speaks. That's when I say. That's why I was led to see when Abba speaks Yahweh into something. When he speaks the righteous direction of the Holy Spirit, right? These this here comes names from that. Here comes authorities from that. People falling into authorities. Now these authorities also dipped in wisdom, right? Dipped into what you could do and what you can't do at the same time, right? That's what this is. That's what this comes about too. So when you're looking at these names and these characters and stuff like that in the chapters and verses and all through the scroll, look at these names. You kind of see exactly what's going on. So we're gonna read Psalms 39. We're still precepting out being neurodivergent. And what is being neurodivergent? Basically, is what we're doing today. What is being neurodivergent? Because that's what we have to be. Um, Neurodivergent includes the neurotypical because that's included, right? On Psalms 39, it says, "I said I will take heed to my ways, that I sin not with my tongue." Right? "I will keep my mouth with a bridle, while the wicked is before me. I was dumb or held without any other thought than silence. I held my peace from righteousness, and my sorrow was stirred." Right? Because even though I was held in righteousness, held in righteous thinking, my sorrow was still stirred because it's going to be stirred. It will. Right? Um, my heart was hot within me while I was musing, the fire burned. Spake I with my tongue, Yahweh, make me to know mine end, and the measure of my days, what it I may know how frail I. So basically, like, hey, while I'm in this point, um, let me know how this is supposed to end. How else are you supposed to know how it's supposed to end? By being neurodivergent, right? This is basically reiterating what we already know, but seeing it in different ways to apply and to be received by different people. That's why you have all these different musicians. So teachers make music. It's music to Abba's ears, you know. Verse 5, "Behold, thou hast made my days an handbreadth, and mine age as nothing before thee. Verily, every man at his best state, altogether vanity." Every man at his best state of neurotypical is vain. They see no purpose in the works. There's purpose in every single work. You see how these precepts back that up too? There's purpose in every single work, right? Verse 6, "Surely every man walketh in a vain shew. Surely they are disquieted in vain. He heapeth up and knoweth not who shall gather them. And now, Adon, what wait I for? My hope in thee. Deliver me from all my transgressions. Make me not the reproach of the foolish." Basically, don't bring me, let me go back to that back and forth thing. Don't let me be caught up in that. "Deliver me from all my transgressions. Make me not the reproach of the foolish. I was dumb. I opened not my mouth because thou didst it." Right? Because he did that. "Remove thy stroke away from me. I am consumed by the blow of thy hand. When thou with rebukes dost correct man for iniquity, thou makest his beauty to consume away like a moth. Surely every man vanity. Surely every man by himself vanity." So what he's talking about is the one or the other, the door or the door, from good things or bad things. But every action has an opposite and or equal reaction. So this is the motif. This is the motive of all the songs, going from one door to the other. They're gonna sing about this, but they're gonna sing about that too. Like our testimonies, we've been through the fire. The refining fire is a and there's a fine. There's a doing this over and over and over again, and there's a fine tuning to it, right? To be able to carry the lesson of it, but not the punishment of it, right? To carry the encounter, but not repeat the injury, right? Um, Verse 11, "When thou with rebukes dost correct man for iniquity, thou makest his beauty to consume away like a moth." So a moth, like you think about a moth and a butterfly, both come from a caterpillar. But one, you would see a moth and be like, oh. But you see a butterfly and be like, oh, pretty, right? So that's what that's talking about there. When thou with rebukes dost correct man for iniquity, thou makest the beauty to consume away like a moth, or still fly, right? Surely every man is vanity. Salah. That also goes deep because you keep going deeper than that. To be vanity, to be vain is to see that a moth has no purpose, or to see that a moth is ugly. Right? So at the same time, he's saying, um, thou makest the beauty to consume away like a moth. So a moth versus butterfly, I'd be like, ugh, like I said. But then even right after that, surely every man vanity. To even think that though, still would be to think vain, because in that thought you had to think something was of no purpose. So to see a butterfly and to see a moth and think that one's uglier than the other is beauty in everything. What is received and what is by what's reflected is the neurodivergency and the neurotypical, where that comes into play. So again, we're just precepting it out from here on out, but it's it's there. It's there. So by the end of this, you should be able to walk into somebody and say, you neurodivergent or neurotypical? At the end of the day. They'd be like, what? Oh, okay, I see where you are. I see where you are now. All right. Verse 12. Hear my prayer or my intense meditation. O Yahweh, give ear unto my cry. Hold not thy peace at my tears. For I am a stranger with thee, a sojourner as all my fathers. O spare me that I may recover strength before I go hence and be no more. Verse 12. Hear my prayer, O Yahweh, O righteous direction, and give ear unto my cry. Hold not thy peace at my tears. Even if I'm crying, I still need to figure this out. Please don't leave me here in this part. Please don't leave me here at this part. I need to keep going, right? Oh, spare me that I may recover strength before I go hence and be no more. The neurodivergency. Now let's go to chapter 139. This Psalm 139, right? Psalm 139. Then we're gonna go to Gad the seer, right? So here's Psalm 139 again, to the chief musician, a Psalm of David, right? Music to Abba's ears. This one, what I want us to think on and keep in our mind is the walk and becoming like the realization of what Yehoshaphat was trying to tell everybody, right? That's what this is going on here. That's what's going on here. Here is an intense meditative prayer, right? You can even use a Google machine and look up exactly what's going on here. It's a personal reflection of omnipresence, omnipotence, right? You know what? I'll show you better than I can tell you. I'll show you better than I can tell you, because we're gonna do this. 139. So it says right even here. It says David reflects on the inescapable presence of Alachayim, right? The inescapable presence of the righteous direction that's meant for us, in us, right? So here in this prayer in Psalm 139, David is talking about how he's in everything, right? An intimate prayer is an extreme meditation. So this is when David went into a cave, right? Just like Elijah depressed himself into a cave. David went into the cave always, all the time, right? Because the cave represents the bait in the Hebrew character, righteous household. So he went to this righteous place, and in this righteous place, he would go, quote unquote, behind the veil and intensely meditate, intensely be in silence so deeply that all you could hear is the ringing in your mind. To a place where he was just thinking so heavily on Abba that he was looking at everything in his life and just going back and meditating and letting that voice speak to him inside of his head and just sitting there. And this is what he came out with, right? That's basically what's going on here. It's a personal reflection of omnipresence, omnipotence, omniscience of everything going on through individual thought. That's what's going on in Psalm 139. We're going to read that real quick. It says, O Yahweh, thou hast searched me and known me. Thou knowest my down sitting and my uprising. Thou understandest my thought afar off. Thou compassest my path and my lying down, and art acquainted with all my ways. For there is not a word in my tongue, but lo, O Yahweh, thou knowest it altogether. Thou hast beset me behind and before, and laid thy hand upon me. So what is that talking about? It's talking about your past, your present, and your future. Right? So now let's start that over. From verse 1. O Yahweh, thou hast searched me and known me. Thou knowest my down sitting and my uprising. So that means he knows your present and he knows your future. Obviously, knowing of your past. Thou understandest my thought afar off. That's the past, because your thoughts from afar off come from encounterings of your past. So I'm thinking about a future that's just on the beach somewhere, because in my past, I know that I'd much rather be there than at work sometimes. That's what I'm saying there. So let's read that again. Verse 2. Thou knowest my down sitting and my uprising. That's also my oh man, what's that word? My reason for getting up, my motivation, right? What motivates me and what sits me down. You know, everything like that, including what's happened from the past, what's in the present, and the future. My thought afar off. So it goes from my down sitting, present, my uprising, future. Thou understandest my thought afar off, past, right? Even towards the future, even about your presence, but it's off track altogether. Verse 3, thou compassest my path and my lying down, my art acquainteth all my ways. For there is not a word in my tongue, but lo, O Yahweh, thou knowest it altogether. That's the only thing I'll be saying, right? Thou hast beset me behind and before, and laid thine hand upon me. Knowledge, such knowledge is too wonderful for me. It is high. I cannot attain up to it. Like, even where I'm trying to go, where I'm trying to reach, where I'm trying to go, I still, I can't. I can't get there. But I will through your way. Right? Verse 7, whither shall I go from thy spirit, or whither shall I flee from thy presence? There is nowhere. If I ascend up to Shamayim, thou art there. If I make my bed in hell, behold, thou art there. If I take the wings of the morning and dwell in the uttermost parts of the sea, even there shall thy hand lead me, and thy right hand shall hold me. So even like in the morning or in the risings, right, when they dwell in the uttermost parts of the sea. Again, this is the place where you need the Ravak HaKodash there with you to help you get through things. The sea will be the ways of governing that you see that affects you and makes you think neurotypically when you should be thinking neurodivergently, right? So when he dwells in the uttermost parts of the sea, the deepest, darkest places, as we know David has went to, right? Even there shall thy hand lead me, and thy right hand shall hold me. That's that vav in the middle of DAVAD. Verse 11, if I say surely the darkness shall cover me, even the night shall be light around me. So even when darkness comes around, the light shall still shine and show you neurodivergently how you're supposed to see things and receive things, and say, okay, that's not what that means for me right now. It's something deeper than that. Verse 12, yea, the darkness hideth not from thee, but the night shineth as the day. So even in the dark times, even in the darkness, you're able to see more because you're not neurotypical. You're not becoming ego. You're not becoming who you are of the past, but you're neurodivergent. You're taking who you've become because of the past, the down sitting and the uprising and the thought afar off. You're taking all that and you're able to work it now into what it's supposed to be in every time. Even when you say, I'm going into the darkness, even light is there. That's why I was talking about earlier today, not coming up in a very rough place. Like there's history in families, but that's none of nobody's business, right? But I'll put myself in a place where I'm able to be a gap, to bridge a gap, from being in a place where there's so much wickedness, so much hate, so much deceit, but being from a place where there's so much love, so much communication, so much guidance, right? But if I stayed in that place, I would have never understood why these people don't get it, right? But now that I'm able to see, I could tell them things like, hey, I know you're here right now, but eventually you're gonna get where we are now. You've seen it happen with all the OGs. You've seen it happen with all the old heads. You've seen it happen with every respectable person. You get to this point, right? But yet you sit here and you fight and you waste time. Why? That's all. Not Bible thumping, not nothing like that. I just want you to think neurodivergently. I want you to think metaphorically, because if you think metaphorically, you're not thinking in the typical. Right? This is how the Messiah is breaking down how they work things, because that's the way my mind works. If I don't understand that why, how, what you're doing, it's not going to click. But I had to figure out I'm neurodivergent, right? Well, what they told me was nothing. They kind of just try to fit me in however I was able to fit in. And honestly, coming up in school and stuff like that, I was never formally diagnosed with anything. I was just always able to be a jack of all trades, but a master of none. Always able to change my hats, always able to adjust, always able to look at things and be like, all right, I really want to do this, but I can't do this right now. I got to figure out something else. I've came up neurodivergent. I came up like David in a sense, right? Not outcast, but still wanted to do so much more, but I'm held back. So I'm gonna go get it myself. And when I went to try to go get it myself, yeah. But I had to do that. I was placed in that. So even in the darkness, the light shines, because there's light in that. There's light everywhere. There's enlightenment. So where is there darkness? There's confusion. There is misguidance. There is without understanding. But all these things are different than darkness. Because in the beginning, it said that the darkness was taken because of the light, because of the stars in the sky, because of the moon in the sky. Darkness is never really a complete thing. There's still light in darkness. But even me saying that, oh, darkness is not darkness is not a thing. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. That's neurotypical. Now you've kept yourself in darkness. If there was such thing as pitch black, not being able to see anything, that ain't happened since Kemet. You know, that ain't happened since Kemet. That was a rumble. Great day. It ain't even raining yet. That ain't even happened since Kemet. You know what I mean? So even in the darkness, there's still light. Even in the darkness, the lightning strikes. Even in the darkness, the stars shine. Even in the darkness, the moon is there. Even in the darkness, you look outside, you can still see. So what is darkness? A chance for light. That's what it essentially is at the end of the day. This is breaking down the terminology. This is breaking down the concept. This is using what they use and using it against them. Like, hey, I get what you're saying, but and that's not exactly what it is. You know. Verse 13, for thou hast possessed my reins. Thou hast covered me in my mother's womb. I will praise thee, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Marvelous are thy works, and my soul knoweth right well. Verse 15, my substance was not hid from thee when I was made in secret, curiously wrought in the lowest parts of the earth. Thine eyes did see my substance, yet being unperfect. And in thy book all my members were written, which in continuance were fashioned, when as yet there was none of them. So we got the darkness of understanding. Then we talk about the emotion of conscience in verse 13. So for thou hast possessed my reins, which would be my emotion of conscience. Verse 12, yea, the darkness hideth not from thee, or understanding doesn't hide from you, because darkness is without understanding. So even if not having understanding doesn't hide, in order to see that there's not understanding, and therefore, what is darkness? Again, what I was getting to with that. Verse 15, my substance, or my want and hope and search was not hid from thee. So he gave me a way. He led me into a way. He showed me a way, right? Because I was looking. Sometimes I'm looking at a place I shouldn't be looking in. And he's going to say, all right, you know, when I was made in secret and curiously wrought in the lowest parts of the earth. Right? The lowest parts of the earth is the looking and the learning. When you're looking in a place that you haven't learned from, or when you're learning from a place you haven't looked, right? That's the depths, the lowest parts of the earth, of Adat. People would kind of get to Sha'al, Sheol, hell. They would say that, but the lowest parts of the earth is the lowest parts of the earth. cast into the gates of hell would be something completely different, not necessarily the lowest parts of earth. Gotta take that with a grain of salt. Neurodivergently, neurotypical is gonna try to cover a gap somewhere and just glue stuff together. But neurodivergent, you got to see the diverge of it. There's two to everything. But the depths of something, for it to be what it is, he would simply say it is. So it would simply say the depths of the earth is that. If it doesn't say it is that, then it is not that. It's very strict to the point. That's what they mean by not changing one jot nor tittle, because once you start adding and subtracting and flipping stuff, it gets you in all different types of places, right? Verse 17, how precious also are thy thoughts unto me, O Alachayim. How great is the sum of them, which is Alachayim, right? If I should count them, they are more in number than the sand. When I awake, I am still with thee, right? Or when I am awake from meditating, I am still with thee. That's what David is talking about as well. Verse 19, surely thou wilt slay the wicked, O Alachayim. Depart from me, therefore, ye bloody men, or these men in flesh, right? Or these men that are in wars and stuff like that, with different thoughts and different concepts, being very neurotypical, trying to push that upon other people, right? One thing people try to push me into is not thinking the way I think. To try to push me into thinking the way that they think. Oftentimes I'll be involved in situations with others, and then I'll get to a point where I'm past the point. I'm past, and I'm on a point of healing, and people be more afraid of me falling into something. I'm like, hey, I'm past that. I'm healed from that. There's something that you're afraid of that you haven't worked out in you that you're projecting on me. That's what's going on. I'm fine, but you got to see that in neurodivergency to see the worry. Oftentimes, even when mothers coming up, they would see like, hey, I don't want you to do that because what they've done that before and they've been through that and they've seen crazy things, so they don't want you to do that. But I'm fine. I'm not gonna do that because you told me. So you could kind of leave from there a little bit. You get what I'm saying? Um, in a sense, right? In a sense. Um, Verse 20, for they speak against thee wickedly, and thine enemies take thy name in vain. Verse 21, do not I hate them, O Yahweh, that hate thee? And am not I grieved with those that rise up against thee? I hate them with perfect hatred. That's ignoring. Perfect hatred is ignoring. That's what it is, not looking upon it. Because if you do anything past that, you try to put your hands on it, right? But not looking up, not looking at, hold on, not looking upon it is something you have to take with a grain of salt too. Because when you're just looking upon it, you're not breaking it down. Okay? So just looking upon it is just seeing it what it is and not breaking it down. Just looking upon it is being neurotypical. So when you're reading stuff from David, remember David is neurodivergent. So he's talking differently. It's like you got to see things for specifically what it is, but be neurodivergent with it. So just like I was talking about, if it doesn't say this, then it doesn't mean that. That's neurotypical. But neurodivergent helps you see that that's neurotypical to think that way. So therefore, it must mean this. That's how I get to the point of you got to keep the mindset of the guardian. The goal is to be like the Messiah in every way you can. In the beginning, in Genesis 1 through in the beginning of Genesis, when it talks about creation, it's not just creation of earth, but it's the creation of mindset, of your mind coming together. It built what it's built with to handle the birds of the sky, which is the thoughts, and to handle the beasts of the field, which is how it affects your heart, and to handle the fish of the sea, which is how it affects your walk, right? You can see all that by having a neurodivergent mind. But if you're neurotypical, you would look at me and say, that's wrong, you're doing wickedness, you're twisting it and stuff like that. No, there's still more understanding you have to get to. That's all. It's still more. And even this, it's still more. It might not go, you know what I'm saying? Verse 23, search me, O Alachayim, and know my heart. Try me and know my thoughts, and see if there are any wicked ways in me, and lead me in the way everlasting, which is neurodivergency. That's probably going to be stuck in your head for the remainder of this time. That's the goal, though. That's the goal. So the neurotypical part of us goes through synaptic pruning, which eliminates the excess synapses of what the enemy has broken situations up to be focused on by peace. I'm going to read that one more again. The neurotypical part goes through synaptic pruning, right? Which eliminates the excess synapses of what the enemy has broken simultaneously to be focused on by peace, right? But then at that point as well, that is the point where The neurodivergent simulates the right things. So the neurotypical takes away the things that can't be. The neurodivergent uh, meditates or marinates on what things are. Oftentimes we get stuck on what things can't be, and we'll take that and we'll run with that, and we'll be ready to argue somebody down with it. But none of our concern. Our concern is to get the truth, right? If they go against it, that's something that they really have to go on their own. What this is the people that care and the people that have reached this point, the people that want to know. That's the people I'm talking to more. So that's what I put this out here for those type of people. I'm not really for the ones that don't really care about it, for lack of better words, right? But for the ones that want to dive deeper into it, right? The ones that have seen the neurotypical and say, okay, I can't do none of that, but now we're on the neurodivergent and simulate the right things off of what has been weeded out, right? To see that there is no darkness. Darkness was a thing before, but it's not a thing. There's still light. There's always light. Like there's still always light. Even if you open your eyes in the quote unquote darkness, you still see a shadow. You still see. You're still looking. There's still a way to see. You know what I'm saying? Um, it goes deeper, neurodivergent, because once you start seeing it and seeing things like that and breaking things down like that, you're able to see what's in the scriptures deeper. Right? That's the game. Like here it is. You know what I mean? Uh, this is how I get to these messages. This is how I get to these meditations. I don't go with the typical. That's one thing. I'm like, everybody's talking about the typical thing, but I just feel like there's something more. Like I feel like there's something more in this. Like I know the law says this and this and this, but it feels like there's something else. It feels like there's something else in here that'll help somebody be where I'm at, right? To help somebody that's in my position to get through. Or that just can't be right, but I just can't see nothing that's wrong based off what they've given me that they think is right. Let me go ahead and study this some more. Let me marinate on this some more. Let me go into this cave. Let me go into this bite some more, right? To truly understand the parables, to truly understand the metaphorical words and terminologies. Again, why they ask Yehoshua, why did he speak in parables? And it's not for everyone to know. People have a physical reality complex. That's it. They have a physical reality complex. But when I look at the physical things, I see the spirit of things and how it came about. I look at the clouds and I see the ravak and the winds heating up whatever gases and cooling the gases to bring rain. But then everything that's in the cloud are the same elements that's in earth and in us. The Hashpai comes in the clouds. He comes with us. The mindset comes with us because us is the mindset of clouds. To be able to reign in proper places, not to look back at what we reign upon, not to look back, but not to look on specifically who it rains upon, because that will get you in a place that you're not supposed to be. That will have you neurotypically aiming at somebody versus talking about the complex. The first thing they will hear is an insult in that case, right? So on and so forth. This is pervasive jurisdiction per individual thought, right? That's what pervasive jurisdiction is. It's like per whatever you're going through, there's a way for that. There's a deep thought for that. Don't get caught up in the physical reality of things. um yeah, I reckon that's about it. um we'll go through Gad this year. We're gonna read chapter 1, and then that's all I have. This is basically, again, this is just more of a precept day, a study day, to show how I study and stuff like that, to show the neurodivergency in it, to show how I stay properly planted. Or if I get off route for something, how I get back into it. This is the thought process I go to lean on. My testimony, neurodivergent versus neurotypical. Boy, point blank, bottom line, that's how I roll. That's how I rock. That's how I'm able to see things that eventually make sense, because at first they're not gonna make sense. Promise you that. You're gonna feel like the odd crayon out the box. I'm telling you, like, but be prepared for that. Go with that. Yes, blessed are those who have faith in the intangibles of life. Exactly. Exactly. Those that have that, I can never see nobody as mad at me. I can see nobody as perturbed at me. I can't see. I can't see that. I just see somebody hurt that doesn't understand me. And 9 out of 10, if they're mad at me, they haven't talked to me. Guarantee. Guarantee. If you're mad at me, you haven't talked to me. That's it. That's all. That's a message. Guarantee. Um, but this is the way for me. you know. And 9 out of 10, the ones that sit at this campfire with us, we on the same line. You know. But do the work. Do the work. Do the work. Do the work before we get into Gad this year. Do the work, because if you don't, it's going to show. And that's one thing, me personally, my personal testimony that hurts me even more is to see somebody that's going through the same thing because they don't want to grab something different, right? Because something holds them in a place that's safe for them, but it denies so much of the power thereof. So much of the power thereof. Um, yeah, that's that. Because the pulpit is not the place for all that. But it's keep doing the work. Keep doing the work. Keep doing the work. Because the one thing it does, it breeds distance, right? It breeds distance naturally, and that gap will only be covered if you do the work. All right, that's on everything. That's on everything. Like I see all the times, like I'll get close with many people on the walk, like, and I'm not even the one that's gonna be like I'm right all the time, but I will do the work. If I'm if I'm if I'm coming against you, me personally, just so you know, if I'm coming against you, it's just because I purely don't understand. I just don't understand what you're talking about. But try to see where we're coming from. Agree to disagree, but to that's why I'd rather rock with people in the culture, because to be against somebody like that, you know, I made a promise when I first started this walk that through whatever, if a person is being righteous, then I would do my all to see them in righteousness, and whatever wicked thing they've done to me is something that affected my heart and my feelings. And what affected my heart and my feelings is something that I had to work neurodivergently, because it taught me a lesson to write a song, to write a lesson. That's what these study things are. This is a big old hymn. All right, that's all it is. But do the work. Do the work. A lot of people in our community don't do the work. Like the people here, I know they do the work. I can see it. Like I ain't nobody, but I'm close with you and I talk to you. That means I rock with you. Because if I don't talk to you, I don't rock with you. I don't rock with you. Like it's it's so much. It's so much just to see, and it's you know what, the more painful part, as I'm spelling my heart, I guess the most painful part about it is that the people involved love them. That's the one thing that hurts me so much. It's like uh many times people will take my advice wrong and will think that I'm backtracking into something, but really I'm ahead of something. I'm past something. I'm in something new. Um, Oftentimes people might think, "Oh, he's getting discouraged. He's not sticking with it." No, no, I'm blossoming. I'm growing. Um, that's what it is. But if there's distance there, I'm still here for you. Just get here. Just for forewarning, just get here. Because we're not doing the work. You got it. That's the one thing too. That you got to keep space with somebody that's not doing the work. You got to. But naturally, it all comes together. Naturally, it all comes together. I'm gonna meditate more on that with Abba, because he gonna make a way for that. He gonna make a way for that. Um, let's go ahead and read the words of Gad the Seer. Um, Gad the Seer, chapter 1. And we're gonna go through and read this. Yeah, we pretty much read this all the way through. By the time we get this, right? Yeah, yeah, sis. Um, the words of Gad the Seer. So Gad, we got Gad. Hey, y'all remember the DAVAD, right? Y'all remember the DAVAD we went over? This ain't the same person, so we're not doing that. But Gad, and we were talking about. I'm trying to pull it. Trying to pull it. Cause it's in me. It's one with me, but I got to pull out what that exactly is. um. Oh, train, cut through, like the wind, right? Gad, right? Being able to carry the message properly, quickly, right? Gad the seer. Um, there's a distance in that, but there's the same work in that, right? Gad the seer being one with, yeah, the stampede, yep. Gad the seer being one with that was a dream interpreter for David, right? Or he would get different things for David, right? He'd be able to carry the message quickly. So in that Gad, remember the Gaimal or the humility of the Father or from the source, which will be brought back through the door. So humility allows you to get to the Father. You even see on the Gaimal, um, creating it from right to left. There's a turn in there. There's a turn. There's a turn towards a position. There's a right position, like there's somebody that sits on the right hand, and that means on the left or the left direction, or sits on the right hand of that of the being or the source that is on the left, right? Um, Not left, right, but y'all get what I'm saying. Gad, Gadvat, Gad, words of Gad this year. So to be able to see from a door through humility. So to bring something from humility from the Father to a door, through the door, which would be David, or from Gad to David, from David to people. You see? All right. So Gad ended with the Dalat, and then we got a Dalat, Vav, Dalat. So the humility of, you know what we about to do? Y'all know what we about to do. So y'all can see it better. So y'all can see it better, of course. So we got Gad, At, Davad. So we got and Con, all that. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right. So we got what I say. We got, well. Let's start with sis. Sis got the stampede. TJ got the humble eye to the door, then the humble focus. Exactly. Humble eye to the door gives you a humble focus, or the humble focus gives you a humble eye to the door. That's what we can see right there. So we got Gad. This will be Gad, and then we have Davad. We've seen Davad already. So there's a left turn in that thing, right? To get to the source of the Father, right? That's where the line was coming from. I was talking about. You take that line over to the door, right? And that's the Dalat. But also down here we got Dalat Vav Dalat. So through humility of the Father, you come to a door. What's that door? That's be another door from David, which is nailed to the right thing, which would be able to give it out directly, properly, and put it in the right form of the door. David also being a memorial archivist, right? Whoa, that almost fell. Also being a memorial archivist. Are we good? All right. So that's essentially what's going on. So we got Gamal, Allah, Dalat, Dalat, Vav, Dalat. So from the humility of the Father, or from the source, or from a door, or from the focus, to bring to the door. So to bring a dream, basically. Because in order to get a dream, those that study the process of a dream, you got to be humble. You got to be in tune. You got to be in line to receive what you're supposed to receive from a dream, to even hear or see a dream. You got to be humble. You got to be focused. You got to be in the right direction. When you don't have a dream, oftentimes I get discouraged, but it might just not be. It might just be time for me not to hear anything. Sometimes that's the case. Like that's why I don't try to come out every single weekend. I got to give out time from one for my body to rest and reset, but then also for it to marinate, because I know with this, like for example, for this message, before beginning to gather here, for this message, I came out with something and I sent it to Big Bruder. Because what we did before, we were doing this before, I was sending him what I was talking about, and I sent it to him. And you would think like, hey, it's written out. He should be ready to go this past um, yesterday, right? And it wasn't that I wasn't ready, but it just wasn't it, you know. But to be in focus to get this part right, because before I was just on um what was it, the cupbearer and the baker. There's an avenue we were going through with that, but then it just took a left turn, being humble, you know. The vision changed to bring back through the door. To get to that point where you marinate with the word so much that you get a lesson. That's marinating at the door. Same thing. Same thing. Yeah, like I got a whole another 2 hours going in a different direction. Like I'm telling you, it's it's love. But then also at the same time, that's probably something that he was supposed to get individually for him. Maybe that was the case. I don't know. I don't look too deep into that, but I know that there's no darkness in that. So ship sailed, safe sailing, across these waters of turmoil that we're on. But that's seen as turmoil, but really it's just lessons, right? But yeah, so we're at Gad to Seer. Gad to Seer, to break this open before we just read it right through and then we're done. We're gonna pray it out after that. Unless anybody got anything they want to add. Um so this words of Gad to Seer, people are afraid to read something like this, but really it's like, do you give the respect to it to acknowledge it? That type of thing. But in its primal form, it originated in the first or second century AD, perhaps based on an even older material, and the work is clearly cultured in nature, pointing to the person and work of Hamashiach, even his substantiary sacrifice and reign. Um, Chapter 2 is an exaggerating rebuke of the replacement theology and self righteousness of Rome. The rest of the book is a collection of narratives involving King David and his son Solomon. There are also several psalms in here too that you're able to read, that weren't particularly exactly added to songs, but there are some of the same songs you're able to find in Gad to Seer. So that'll help you see that there's righteousness in here. Again, that once you see that, you dive in with a grain of salt and you start breaking the thing down, right? Chewing, chew the cud, chew the cud, chew the cud. I was gonna come out. I was gonna come out from this a little great while ago. I believe I was asking sis about this because she's the one that actually stood out for that. That did stick with me, huh? She told me before. She was like, "Hey, there's righteousness in it. So can you say that it's wicked?" You know. I'm like, huh? That's a very neurodivergent question. you know. So with that being said, in agreement, right? We're gonna read into this. Amen. So it says, in the 31st year of King David's reign. So 30, that represents a character. 30 and 1, right? 30 and 1. 1 being Alav, and 30 being Lamad, which would be the righteous direction of the Father. So in the 31st year of King David's reign, because nothing happens in time that is not directly purposed for that time. I talked about the clouds in the previous live, and I was talking to my little brother, and I was like, hey, this one resembles this. And I told him, in this moment, this was seen in front of me to register in one particular way. Abba's in control of everything. So there's nothing that happens with no reason, for no reason. There's nothing void, right? Because in the beginning, that canceled all that. He already took care of that. There's just lack of understanding. In the 31st year of King David's reign in Jerusalem, or Yerushalayim, or the head of peace, a place of a mindset that you're supposed to have, a place that you're supposed to know already, that you went from Jacob to Israel, that you went from Jacob's sons to Israel, right? The proper mindset of thinking. A place where you literally break down the characters. You see the righteous direction of the Father, the hand of the Father becomes your mindset, which is for you to be planted wherever you are. That is the righteous direction for the blood, water, and spirit for the person. That's your Yerushalayim. Not worshiping Israel, but knowing the mindset, being intimate with the mindset, which is the 38th year of David's reign. So the 38th year, 30 and 8, which would be Lamad, and then the 8th character, Hat, or Het, which would be wall of protection, or which could be destruction, in a sense, depending on which way you want to come through it, right? But it's usually a wall of protection. But to see the opposite of it, there's two ways to everything. There's a diverge of it. The that wall of protection could also be your destruction at the same time, right? The 38th year of David's reign. So we've already went over DAVAD, right? The word of Yahweh, the word of the righteous direction, came to Gad through the humility of the source to the door, the seer, in the month of Iyar, which is also the image, if you want to break down Ayan or Alav Yavad, Alav Rosh, or Ayan, Alav Rosh. Um, they all, you see how that can kind of, it comes together as well. The stream of Kidron Valley, near the stream of Kidron Valley, saying, Kidron would be Kaf, or the hands of the Father, which is the image for the door to become the head for maturity of perfection, or maturity or perfection. So we can see right there, even in the Kidron Valley, saying. So I'm gonna read all that with Hebrew characters input, because also remember, this would have been written in Hebrew character, everything in Hebrew character, right? So we're gonna do that. So in the working of the righteous direction of the Father in the year of King David's reign, in the mindset that you're supposed to be, in the righteous through the righteous direction for the wall of protection or through destruction during the year of David's reign. The word of Yahweh came to the humility of a man that went to the source to bring things back to the door, to make him a seer in the month of Iyar, near the stream of Kidron, which is where the name comes from, the working of the hands of the Father to be in the image, which goes through a door, which fixes your head, right? Which makes you mature in perfection in the valley, saying, right? Thus said Yahweh, go be courageous and stand in the midst of the stream, in the midst of the waters, right? And that's give or take a few characters, right? But that's just the general consensus of it. Stand in the midst of the stream and cry with a great voice, tarry and hasten, tarry and hasten, tarry and hasten. It also reminds you of the stream that David went in to get out the smooth stones. For there is still a vision for the son of Jesse. The son of Jesse, as in he hasn't gotten to where he needs to go yet. That's the emphasis on that. Verse 3, and during the cry, face the eastern gate on the east side of the city and stretch forth your hands towards Shamayam, or towards heaven. And I did exactly what I had been commanded to do. And it came to pass, when I finished crying out, I opened my eyes and saw a yoke of oxen led by a donkey and a camel coming up from the brook of Kidron. Right? A donkey and a camel. Right? So a donkey representing humility. A camel, also represented by Gamal. Right? A camel's neck also. Also, a camel is able to walk through the desert. Right? Being neurodivergent. Able to walk through the desert and still not need water for a particular time. To allow the donkey to drink. Right? It's a lot. Drink what it needs to. Right? Led by a donkey and a camel coming up from the brook of Kidron. The donkey on the right side, which would be where the word is, because in the beginning was the word, right? And the Messiah sits on the right hand of the Father. So we can see the donkey is on the right hand of the yoke and the camel is on the left. So in that character of Guy Maul, you see when I was talking about that left turn, giving y'all a little peek to my book, right? Or the book that Albert has led me to start on. The camel is on the left. So that coincides with where I was going to at that point. On the left being not just the left hand, but the left being off of the right side. So that's where the Father is. The camel being one that doesn't need water, but has water stored in them, for the longer trails, allowing the donkey to drink and do its job, or show people how to drink and where to drink from. Right? Humility yoked to stubbornness. See, here we go. Even more. Humility yoked to stubbornness. Because the camel can be stubborn. Right? The camel knows the ways half the time too. Right? But you see how we got to be divergent to see both sides in order to see the full message. That's what Ravak does right there. What Sis just did, that's Ravak. Alright, that's what I be talking about. Like, just because I'm saying this don't mean that there's not another side and more to it. That's what I'm talking about. To sis. The right side of the yoke and the camel on the left, right? And the yoke would mean, like, you're talking about the oxen. So for those that don't know, evenly yoked. So you would have two oxen, right? One oxen would be older, one would be younger. The younger would take over the the strenuous work when the older gets too tired, but the older will know exactly the work to do when the younger doesn't know which way to go. Of not being directly, so it's like having the heart of the Messiah but not walking in it, type of thing. At that point, the theories of magnetism starts. Yeah, see, you gotta know that science. Yeah, the push pull. Exactly, you got to push pull. Two two north push against each other. Two south push against each other, but one gotta be without. One gotta be lacking for it to attract. That's about it. That's about it. All praises to to all praises. But that's exactly what it's doing. That's exactly what it's going through. The magnetism, the theories. Like you got to have the science to it. You got to have the science to it. Like Bible is fact, science is theory. That's what it is. Let's keep going. And a great voice of the roll of thunder was following them, crying with a bitter voice, "Seer, seer, seer! These are four mixtures that confuse the people of the righteous direction, or confuse the people of Yahweh. For the impure and the pure have been mixed." So it doesn't say these four mixtures aren't supposed to be, but they're supposed to be understood. You see that neurodivergentism going on there? There are four mixtures that confuse people of the righteous direction. The impure and the pure throw people off. They have been mixed, and then the impurity took control over the purity. So the neurotypical took over the neurodivergency, and a mixture from Seir or Edom to rule over them, which is the one that puts you in that frame of mind. That could be anyone in the system, not particularly going to anybody in the medical field or in the teacher profession or in the warehouse profession or in the truck driving profession, but this goes to the one that rules over them wickedly, that tries to keep them there instead of one that's in there and telling them, hey, if you're going to do this towards this. All right? If you're going to be in the system, work towards being out of it. If you're going to work this job, work the job. Don't let the job work you. Right? They're there to hire you. They're there to go to your needs. When you're in an interview, they're asking you what you want. Like you tell them what you want. You're the prized possession. Like if that's your led way, right? Verse 9, to increase power over and betray a righteous doer. So verse 8 and verse 9, let's read that again. For the impure and the pure have mixed, and the impurity took control over purity, a mixture from Seir or Edom to rule over them, to increase power over and betray a righteous doer, to destroy holiness, to crown wickedness, to set up more impure matters in the guise of purity. And after the voice, a great shaking occurred that shook over the impurity and blew the donkey and the camel into the moon. What does the moon do? Well, the moon is what the waters work by, right? We can see that in science. Now, we know the greater workings of the things, but stay with me, right? So we got the moon that controls, that's over the waters. The moon is here, there's high tide, and moon is here, there's low tide. There's a full moon, the waters do this, there's a, so on and so forth. So the waters, again, like we were talking about before, we got the birds of the sky, the beasts of the field, and the fish of the sea. So when it says the donkey and the camel were blown into the moon with the stormy wind, right? So that wind is Ravak HaKodash, blown into the moon, which is over the waters, goes the camel and the donkey. What happens there? Push and pull tides. There we go. Yep. And the moon, verse 12, and the moon was opened and looked like a bow, a semicircle. What is that? A bow in the clouds. What does that remind you of? And both her points reached toward the ground. Right? So both points. One point the camel, one point the donkey. Camel and donkey at one point. Camel and donkey on the other side. All through. It's a bow. What as above, so below. So the bow above. Alright? See where that goes? Towards the ground, verse 13, and behold, the sun came out of Shamayim in the shape of a man, with a crown on his head, carrying a lamb over his right shoulder, despised and rejected. And on the crown on his head, 3 shepherds are seen. 3 shepherds are seen. What's the big 3? The 3 shepherds are going to help you with the birds of the sky, the beasts of the field, and the fish of the sea. That is Abba Father, Abba Yah, Abba Yahweh, right? Yahashpai HaMashacheh, Ravak HaKodash. They help you in these three things too. Also, you need 3 for balance. You need two things there, but you need one in the middle to calculate the balance. All this applies here. Shackled with 12 shackles. We know what the 12 are, right? And the shackles were of gold, plated with silver, right? So gold being, we can go many different ways with that. Gold being us, right? Plated with silver. These are the things that we could correlate to how Judas pulled the Judas with the silver, plating the gold. All right, but it keeps going. It says, and the voice of the Lamb was heard, great and dreadful, like the voice of a lion roaring over his prey. Woe to me, and it says that 3 times. My image, I'll rebuke that though. My image has been diminished, right? So that's what they're going through right there. My refuge has been lost. So you see how all that means that. So that's why I said the gold represents us, the silver being the pieces of silver that Judas gave up the Messiah for. And now it says after that, a voice of a lion roaring over his prey, the image has been diminished, right? My refuge has been lost. My lot and destiny has turned me over to my spoilers. So that's how I got to Judas. All right. Anybody has anything else, let it marinate within you, but that's how I got there, just showing how I got there, right? And I was defiled until evening by the touch of impurity. So evening to rising is how the day goes. So by the start of the day and by the end of the day, literally at that evening point, because darkness is not dark, right? So from evening to evening, that is where the impurity started from. So from the start of the day to the start of the next day, or from one thought to the next thought, or from dalat to dalat, right? And it came to pass when the voice of the Lamb ceased speaking, behold, a man dressed in linen came with 3 vine branches and 12 palms in his hand. Same thing. We're going to keep going with that, right? And he took the lamb from the hand of the sun and put the crown on his head, and the vine branches and palms on his heart. Again, what happens in the heart of the neurodivergent? What happens in the heart of the neurodivergent, they take things, they absorb things, and they let them build them from the inside out. So from the inside out, what is it built with? The things that will help you conquer the birds of the sky, the beasts of the field, the fish of the sea, but then also will help you conquer the things, which is the things of the heart, not also, but which are the things of the heart. And the man dressed with linen cried like a ram's horn, saying, what are you doing here, impurity? And how did you get here, impurity? That you have carved yourself a place to combine impurity with my covenant. That is what the fallen angels did. That I have set with the vine branches, see, and palms, right? And I heard the Lamb's shepherd saying, there is a place with me for the pure, but not for the impure. For I am a holy Alachayim, and I do not want the impure. I only want the pure, right? Not saying that he's null and void and that the other doesn't exist, but what you're supposed to conquer is evenly yoked lawnmowers. I remember that, bro. My bad, I caught that late. The impure, not saying that it's not there, but that he wants you to concentrate on the pure, so you're able to work the impure. That's basically what we're doing. Like we say all the time, we're just going deeper into what we already said before, right? That's what we do here. I do not want the impure, I only want the pure, even though I created them both. Boom, bam. And my eyes did it again. And my eyes are equally on them both. See? So to be like that, we must do the same thing. But there is an advantage to the abundance of purity over the abundance of impurity. Right? Just like there's advantage of a man over a shadow. But some people are more afraid of the shadows. For the shadow does not exist without man. My brother Dorsey said something about that this morning. I forget what he said, but he said something about that shadow. I'm going to have to go back and look if he got that posted up there. That probably means something. I'm telling you, me and bro be doing hot potato, I'm telling you. But that means we're vibing in the same library, and that helps a lot. Seeing how everybody's on the same page and flow of things, but let's keep on going. Like this season right here for y'all too. What I keep hearing and saying, it's a season of being in the cave. That's the season I'm seeing. Um, the cave season. A season of dwelling back in and finding back in and deep diving back in and looking at these scrolls as we look into Gad, the seer, stuff like that. That's the season that we're in. So it's okay. It's not a bad hand dealt. It's just your hand. You know. Yeah, that's that Ravat. That's that Ravat. I'm telling you. For the shadow does not exist without the man, and only by the man's existence is the shadow given to the tired and the exhausted. This applies in the same way to the pure and impure, for all gates of intelligence are turned around since the death of the 8 branches of the vine. Right? Ooh, that's deep. For all gates of intelligence are turned around since the death of the 8 branches of the vine. Since the wall of protection, since you hit that, bam, you hit that wall, and you turned around and said, ouch. And then you looked and said, oh, there's a way around the wall, right? Intelligence was turned around there. The neurotypical, that wall, they turned into neurodivergent, a way around it. Right? Because we realized, okay, we might not get everything in the first 5 minutes, right? But we love to, we like to. We got that hunter's mindset because that's what we're trained to do. Trained to protect the sheep. So what do the protectors of sheep do? They hunt. They're aware of things. David and the lion, like David did that. David did that. Like there's even some places where it's written that he had necklaces of teeth from these animals and stuff like that. Let's keep going. For all gates of intelligence are turned around since the death of the 8 branches of the vine. Right? And as is found in the words of righteousness in the true scroll, but because of the wanderings of the sheep, their rest and divisions, intelligence is stopped up until I do greatly in keeping grace. That's exactly what we just said. Right? There's a place where it's like, hey, you could turn around from here, right? But the wandering of the sheep, they're wandering of their eyes, looking too much at the typical, right? It makes them think that you can't see things this way. It makes them think that, hey, this is devilish. It makes them think like, hey, you're not supposed to touch that. That's just what they told you neurotypically wise. Somebody didn't understand, so they said you're not supposed to do it, right? And it wasn't meant for them to look into. Take that into consideration too. It wasn't meant for them to see it. That's it. Verse 27, I saw the impurity that was driven from the moon and was given over to a consuming wrath. Right into the waters, ground into fine dust, and blown away by the daily wind, which is the daily working of the Ravat. Fine dust, we are made from the dust of the ground, right? So it says, I saw the impurity was driven from the moon, right? That controls the push and the pull of the tides, and was given over to a consuming wrath, right? Which is given into Yahweh, the righteous direction of the Father, and ground into fine dust, put into the earth. This is what David would have heard from Gad saying these things. This is what I hear from being neurodivergent and hearing what Gad was getting from these things. David would have thought the same way. So he's telling David this. People be like, what is he even talking about? That literally can't happen. Well, no, that's neurotypical. Be neurodivergent. If you're not neurodivergent, if you don't have that medical mindset, if you're not able to see the natural, so you can able to see the supernatural, the super in the natural. So for those that don't like that terminology, we could go with many other different correlations. But you got to be neurodivergent. To break it all the way down to the breakdown, to the get down, neurodivergency. Verse 28, and the day burns as a furnace to remove impurity and to erase the transgression. That's another chance to make another choice. Verse 29, the Lamb was put on the moon forever and ever. Right? The Lamb was put on the moon, on the place that controls the waters of the tides, how high it goes, how farther in it crashes, high tide, low tide. The Lamb was put on the moon forever and ever, and the Lamb took from the pure the impurity that had been mixed with them and brought it as a peace offering sacrifice to the altar before Elohim Almighty, or the Almighty righteous direction, which is what you're supposed to do. Take the things to the altar. I don't understand this. I know it's not void. I know that it makes me feel like this, so it's probably not the right thing. Abba, I'm just going to put this before you real quick. Right here. All right. Just get back to me when you can. I'm going to leave this right here. All right. I'm going to move on out the way because I'm pretty sure I got other stuff to do and I ain't supposed to worry about this. Right? Let's keep going. And the Lamb, my mind, yo. And the Lamb took from the pure the impurity that had been mixed with them and brought it as a peace offering sacrifice on the altar before Elohim Almighty, zealous Yahweh of hosts, or righteous direction of everything that works the workings of what we're supposed to go through. And I heard these singing And I heard those singing the song of the Lamb saying. So at this point, he heard singing. So at this point, there will be a song that was written from this elevated place in a dream. Salah. I will give thanks to you, O Yahweh, for though you were angry with me, you forgave me. This is a song that they were talking about too. For Yahweh is my strength and song, and he has become my redeemer. I will sing to Yahweh, for he is highly exalted. He has thrown the horse and his rider into the sea of reeds. Arise, intelligence, arise, power, arise, kinship, arise, majesty and glory. Arise, help of Yahweh, for Elohim has saved one who had taken away and obliterated the impurity from the earth. He fought my fight and brought into the light my righteousness by his help. My help comes from, right? That's the song. Who made heaven and earth? The one who keepeth me, right? He will not slumber nor sleep, right? That song, right? That's the song. All right. Truly, who is like you, glorious in holiness, but not in impurity. Why did I know my sister was singing that song too? For you are great over all, raised over all. You spoke and acted, for you declared the end from the beginning. This would be a lot of salah right here. This would definitely read different. You sealed everything by your words and turned my heart and convicted me. For your seal is on me, my Adon, and these are 3 vine branches and 12 palms that are on my heart. So evidently, these 12 vine branches that we've been going through is something that we are supposed to go through because it's necessary for your life, right? You glorified me, you erased the vanity of a fearing man, and you gave me a pure heart forever. For that I will praise you at all times and thank you among the nations, no matter where I go. For you, no, and thank you among the nations. Think about Thanksgiving. Think about Thanksgiving. And as you go among the nations, no matter what trial you go through, no matter what situation, right? Dalet, 5, Dalat. Forever and ever. Verse 46, and I heard a voice crying from Shamayam saying, you are my son. You are my firstborn. You are my first fruits. Have I not brought you up from the brook of Kemet, wholeheartedly to be my daily delight? But you have given my gifts and dressed up the impure with the pure, and that is why all those things have happened to you. So he tells you why. don't dress them up with it, but to see the difference and dress the pure, address the neurotypical, like we were talking about. Address the neurodivergent. Sorry, but address both. Hold on, how are we gonna say this one? Be aware of both of them. Dress one, but do not forget the work of the other. All I had to do was slow down. Got you. Oh man. For I will praise you at all times and thank you among the nations. So wherever you go, give the reservation. Thanksgiving is a time of fasting, right? So you're permanently fasting, permanently on the neurodivergency, permanently on the path of seeing the best in things. Many would say that that's not a right thing to do. Or you just see the best in everything, but that's what we're supposed to do. Because if you don't see the best in everything, you're only seeing, right? So we literally speak ourselves into that thing when words mean words right then is because the intent behind the words change. Like I could say, I'm fine, or I could say, I'm fine. That's a big difference. That's what we can't really be tripping over these words, y'all. We can't, because you're gonna miss a lot, because you're not gonna be able to receive something and ingest something because it's a no word, right? Come on, you got it. Come on, fam. Let's keep going. You are my first fruits. Verse 48, have I not brought you up from the brook of Kemet, or from the waters of Kemet, right? Or from the rulership of Kemet, wholeheartedly, like with your whole heart, with everything that I taught you, with this neurodivergency, to be my daily delight, even amongst the quote-unquote darkness, right? But you have given my gifts and dressed up the impure with the pure, and that is why all these things have happened to you. And who is like to you among all the creatures on earth? So who is that you started listening to now that's so much better than you listening for yourself? So much better than you having a relationship with Abba for yourself. For you having so much of a relationship to see the good, to see them righteousness, to see that somebody in a terrible state is not in the state that they're always going to be in. But if you only remember somebody from a terrible state, then you're not going to see them in the state that they're in, because you never seen it. You never seen the possibility. Abba saw the possibility, but yeah, many of us will stick with somewhere, right? But as I was referencing earlier, for me, I got past it, but now I see, looking back, like, man, I was just doing too much. But holding on to somebody in one position, talking to somebody about something, but still holding them in that position and never able to see more. Never able to see more. Literally keeping yourself in chaos. Fighting a battle that's not even That's not even fought. It's just an internal battle with yourself. That person ain't fighting you. You know? I've seen that. I've seen me doing that, and I've seen me in the situation of others doing it to me. Alright. It's a full circle. And heavy is the head that wears the crown, because you got to be accountable for all of it. Like, I ain't perfect, and I do repent and apologize to who I'm apologizing to. You know, we better now, but yeah, it was a time. It was a time for sure. Let's keep on going. Uh, for they lived in your shadow, and by your wounds they were healed. Verse 49. Let's read that again. But you have given my gifts and dressed up the impure with the pure, and that is why all these things have happened to you. And who is like you among all the creatures on earth? For they lived in your shadow, and by your wounds they were healed. For consider well that which is before you, because you have fulfilled the words of the shepherd all the days you have been in the sun, and you did not leave them. Therefore all this honor will be yours. And I, Gad, son of Ahimelech, of the Yabaz family, of the tribe of Judah, son of Yahasharaal, was amazed by the vision and could not settle my spirit. All that going to the Hebrew character breakdown of that's righteous. I'm gonna do that after this, just because it says something for you to remember or bring back to remembrance. But let's keep going. Was amazed by the vision and could not settle my spirit. And the one dressed in linen came down to me and touched me, saying, write these words and seal them in the seal of truth, for Yahweh is my name. And with my name you will bless the whole house of Yahashrael, for they are of a true seed. And in a little while you will go and be quietly gathered to your fathers. But at the end of days you will see with your own eyes all these things. Not as a vision, but in reality. So at the last days, but at the end of days you will see with your own eyes. So this combats with the last days. Not combats, but that other side of things. So last days, like I always say, we'll get there. But the last days of thinking right now, we're supposed to help people life right now. That's the goal. Not to beat them into a pulp, not to say y'all did us so wrong, not to say y'all hurt my great grandmother, not to do none of that. These things happen, these things are painful. But this is the mindset. The last days of thinking that there's a mindset that you will be affected in the last days. For one thing, for this to even be a chit chat talk of a thing to try to guesstimate and all this stuff, and you tell people how to life. You tell people how to go through things. You be aware of that. Yeah, it doesn't say don't be aware of it. Yeah, just know that there's a time of the end of days, but knowing that the end of days is the end of a thought process, because time ain't a thing. It's a construct for us. End of a day is the end of a thought for Abba. So they're thinking in that mindset, you're thinking about a thought ending, or a thought changing, or a mindset changing, because what he called a mindset change, he called that time. So my brain is on a time clock type of thing. It relates it to time. It gave me a boundary or a basis to go with to line things up. But end of days is the end of a thought. Right? Because you look in the beginning of Genesis about a Shayat, right? That you see there will be the come on, bring this together. That right there would be the days. So he took a day of rest. It'd be a day of completion. Everything was at rest that day, right? No thought. He saw everything was okay, right? So that's what's going on here. That's what more so it's about, because no man knows the day nor the hour, right? That would be time. So even if you go back to the beginning, you can't really tell when it's going to happen, because there's a point where time was time. There's a point where time was a time, excuse me. So in this beginning thought, this is before the creation of earth, which you would have to count because you got to include everything. So you would have to include even before that. So how do you count before creation? Even those 7 days or whatever is more representative of a harvesting tool. Seven would be Zion, to be a harvesting tool, to be a tool to go with to help you count the season and days to know when to plant things, when to harvest, when to expect rain, and when to do this and do that. But not a thing to track when the world is going to end. Because if that was the case, he would have just told you. you know, he would have just told you. But know that this is a end of a mindset. Because if your mindset changes, what I'm trying to get to you. If your mindset changes, that's the end of days. Nothing else is going to affect you after that, right? So therefore, stay in the mindset. That's what he's talking about here, right? It says, in a little while you will go and be quietly gathered to your fathers. But, but at the end of days, however, you will see with your own eyes all these things, not as a vision, but in reality. But you will be gathered with your fathers. But on the other hand, while you're here, the end of the days here will be, you will see with your own eyes all these things, not as a vision, but in reality. He brought that through the door righteously. What happened over time? People have grabbed that and ran off, right? Ran off the world, like ran off the deep end with it because it shook everybody up. Because now you're thinking neurotypical. Now you're like, okay, well now I got to look at this literally for what it is. No, 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 no. Neurodivergent, neurodivergent, neurodivergent. Keep it together. All right, let's keep going. For in those days they would not be called Jacob, but Israel. They will not be called Jacob before, but they will be called Yahashua after. For no iniquity will be found in their remnant. Right? That's the end of that day. For they will entirely belong to Yahweh. Already. I already purposely do. Do I mess up? Oh yeah, for surely. But I'm all about him. I would never deny. I don't care what the adversary could try to do to me. I would never deny Father. Never. I would joke my way out of it. I'm telling you. I would sit there, cry, boo-hoo, say some select words maybe, but it's like I'm still not gonna deny him. That's not even the last thing. That's not even on the list. All right, go on somewhere with that. Verse 57. And these words will restore your life and spirit. You're welcome. No, just kidding. And this will be the sign to you when you enter the town. You will find my servant David, while he is reading these words from the scroll of the covenant. And yet, for all that, when they are in the land of their enemies, I will not reject them. Neither will I abhor them, to utterly destroy them, and to break my covenant with them, for I am Yahweh their Elohim. Right? So even yet, still, you won't be destroyed. He's still going to be like, hey, you still got some time to learn. Verse 59. And my notes be all over these numbers. And you will tell him about the scene you have just seen. And when he sees you, he will be glad in his heart. We already talked about the heart. And it came to pass when I came to the house of David. It's so funny because like every apostle said they would never. Yeah, yeah. And it came to pass when I came to the house of David, the man of Elohim, I found him as the one dressed in linen. So that explained all that. And said, in linen has said, and I told him, no, read that wrong. And I found him as the one dressed in linen had said, yeah. So not David was the one dressed in linen, but he found him as the one dressed in linen said he would. And I told him of all my visions. Then David spoke the words of this song to Yahweh, saying, I love you, O Yahweh, my strength. And to me he said, the Yahweh has blessed you, and has not removed his covenant from you. For he is true, and his word is true, and his seal is true. So right there in that meditative state, he said, so as soon as Gad came to him and told him everything, David spoke the words. He said, I love you, O Yahweh, my strength. And what did Abba say back? He said, Yahweh has blessed you. You have not been removed. Yahweh has blessed you and has not removed his covenant from you. For he is true, and his word is true, and his seal is true. That's what that voice inside of his head said. All right? All right? Come on now. All praises. But that's it. That's that book hitting the table. Right. But that's all I got for you, fam. Prayerfully, this was very, very edifying for you. So all together to bring this together, let's see, we went from Nahum, talks about the compassion. We went to 2 Corinthians Oh no. 14? Where did we go? We went somewhere. Somewhere around there. Where did we go to? 2 Corinthians 4, 16 through 18. See that what they call dyslexia started jumping around, but that's just the right to left. It just threw me off. 2 Corinthians 4. Then we also went to Psalms 39, talking about Yadavan. And then we also went to Psalms 139. And then we also went to Gad the Seer, chapter 1, and wrote that down. My recommendation, also, you can check out Ezekiel 29 for talking about all praises to God, bro. To God, bro. That's my brother. That's my big brother from another mother right there. Um, yeah, Ezekiel 29 talks about the creeping thoughts of things. It talks about like talking about the lizard or the giant lizard, the dragon, alligator. I was going there for the reference. We didn't hit it, but there's a reference I said in my live earlier today. For those that are swimming around this thing out here. Um, how's it go? I heard it. African brother said it. That don't hit. I said, yeah, I'm taking that one. He said, the man that's drowning in a swamp and believes that the leaf will keep him afloat more than a boat will, the alligator is already smiling. Salah. That's Ezekiel 29 talking about the creeping thoughts, the things that creep up on you, like walk up on you a little slowly, that ends up taking over and starts putting that impurity on that purity, because impurity moves slow thinking about it, because can't nothing move quicker than pure. It's the impurity that slowly encompasses, just like Venom in Spider-Man, for those I know. My bad, my bad. No, I meant that. I love some Spider-Man, some Star Wars, some Naruto, some some Baki. Like, I'm never mind. Also Full Metal Alchemist. That right there is a show that look at that with a grain of salt, like with the metaphorical mindset and stuff like that. See if you can figure that out too. Stuff gets really interesting over there on that side of things. But these visions, these televisions, the DVDs, they do just be careful and study type thing. Um, but yeah, don't want to quench the spirit, but I reckon that's about it. All praises, all praises. We gonna pray it out. Oof, Abba, to die, Abba, for the calmness of mind, the neurodivergency, the ability to see sporadically in all different motions and all times and the whole time, but to still be able to pull things at the right time. Don't know how you do it, but you do it so well. Um, to die for choosing me in this setting for this right here. May have been pleasing in your sight. Per the words of the end of God the seer, I reckon it is, because nothing is said in time and read in time to relate, especially at this time, if it wasn't for reason. So to die about for that, and for the example, for giving me words to work the example, to help whoever I'm here to help out. It won't be everybody, but it'll be who it is supposed to be, and whoever else has heard this, may they marinate on it and disperse it the way they are supposed to, because this is what we're supposed to do. All praises to your righteous hand. To die for the protection, to die for family, bringing us together, and those that will do the work. Because as you say, we can't pray for others to do the work. We can't stop somebody else's lesson in it, but that this may motivate them to do the work, to go deeper into it and deeper into it and deeper into it, so the argumentative stuff won't hinder them from where they need to go, which is a request. All right, but your will be done per usual, even if that's not your will. Your will be done. Um, Praying for safety for the rest of the day for everybody, for as we start our week, for the Shabbat starting this evening, for your calendar you've given us, as well. To die for being able to rest in your word and not to see it as a work, but to give time for it to be a blessing, to give time for it to be a a place to sit with family and speak in a way that's not commonly spoken, is so great, and we're so grateful for you. To die for the neurodivergent mindset you have put in us. Because in the beginning, you have given bara. Bara is create. You have created your alachayim, your righteous direction in the blood, water, and spirit from you in Shamayim Arat. So this mindset was already here for us to have, and to die for giving us the scripture to see this, but also for the understanding to go deeper in order to see what that really means when we're coming out of this mindset of what we see and what we're placed in, to know that these things are to build us. It's not a bad hand, but we learn from the inside out. So we must be affected in the heart. To die for that realization. Not Sham Yahava, that's Sham Yahashpai, that's Sham Ravak Hakwadas. Aman, and Aman. Dang. That last little bit hit the heart a little bit. Great day. That don't make your boy tear a little bit. But all praises. Prayerfully, this was definitely received righteously. I know it was. This is another great one, another long talk. Same library, same family, right? Per usual, we were kind of going on this every other, we're gonna call it weekend thing. But we're gonna see how we're led. If led otherwise, I'll throw it out there to those that catch on more quickly, more closely, that more in tune, more intertwined with. I'll let y'all know. I'll probably post in Discord and let y'all know. And let me know when y'all going live and stuff like that. Send me your stuff. All right, come on now. But yeah, all praises, all praises. But until next time, Shalom Aparak fam, Shalom Aparak. I kind of just want to sit on here and just talk, but we ain't gonna do that. I think I gotta let my phone charge anyway. But Hava at Yahweh, the love of Yahweh, for Yahweh at Yahweh. Yahweh is love. Shalom Aparak, peace and blessings. And until next time, fam, I'm finally gonna get off here. Peace. Well, I'm gonna let this music play in the background one time because that's just how we opening and closing. But love y'all. Baba Kasha, all praises. All praises. All right. Pause. No, don't play nothing. All right, all praises. Catch y'all next time. We'll just say this weekend coming up, we're gonna see. But we'll go for that and we'll press and strain forward more from that. All praises. Until next time, fam. Peace.